Here we go.
Best intro music in the world. Welcome to a Creepypasta live stream. This is Plaguebringer here with Christian Iscariot.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Cosmo Fish.
Hey.
Light Row.
What's going on?
And our wonderful piano player, D Mention Bucket.
Hello.
And so tonight here we are going to have a Creepypasta live stream just for, fun. I mean, come on, why else would you do it? It's not for any dramatic effect. And so let's start off.
Just for you.
Let's start off with a reading from Christian Iscariot.
Okay. One I found a little while ago. Yeah.
Anytime now.
What? I know. Just get the hell from all that noise. Ah, forget it. Okay. Shadow people, also known as shadow men, shadow folk, or shadow beings, are said to be shadow-like creatures of supernatural origin, which appear as dark forms in the peripheries of people's visions and disintegrate or move between walls when noticed. What the hell was that?
Anytime now.
I know. Just the hell from all that noise. Ah, forget it. Seriously? Okay.
What?
Someone didn't.
I think we're catching up on lag in the live stream.
Yeah, just mute. I
Alright,
forgot the other thing.
if you've got YouTube open, just mute it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think it was on mute.
No, I'm gonna have to mute. I'm gonna have to restart. I'm just gonna restart this.
Alright.
I am the weakest link. Well done, everyone. Well done. Yay.
Nice going, Cosmo.
We are so smart. Perfection of a live streamer right here.
You're listening to the Mention Bucket podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Take a drink.
Everybody take a drink.
Alright, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's keep going.
Okay, I'm gonna start again. Good thing I only got through the first paragraph. Okay. Shadow people, also known as shadow men, shadow folk, or shadow beings, are said to be shadow-like creatures of supernatural origin, which appear as dark forms in the peripheries of people's visions and disintegrate or move between walls when noticed. Reports of shadow people are similar to ghost sightings, but differ in that shadow people are not reported as having human features, wearing modern/period clothing, or attempting to communicate. Witnesses also do not report the same feelings of being in the presence of something that was once human. Some individuals have described being menaced, chased, or, more rarely, attacked by shadow people. There have also been reports of shadow people appearing in front of witnesses or lingering for several seconds before disappearing. Witnesses report that encounters are typically accompanied by a feeling of dread. Most accounts of shadow people describe them as black humanoid silhouettes with no discernible mouths, noses, eyes, or any expression whatsoever, though purported witnesses have also described child-sized humanoids or shapeless masses. Some reports also include glowing red eyes. Generally, they are described as lacking mass, though their specific nature varies from a two-dimensional shadow to a vaporous or distorted three-dimensional form. Their movement is often described as being very quick and disjointed. They may first move slowly, as if they were passing through a heavy liquid, and then rapidly hop to another part of a witness's surrounding. Some witnesses describe this movement as though the shadow entities they've seen danced from one wall to the next, or as moving around the room, as if they were on a specific track. Some accounts differ from above, and instead describe a completely black creature with red eyes, a cloak, and a gentleman's hat. This variation has become known as the Hat Man. Now for the main poster. Those flickers of darkness you see at the corners of your eyes? Those aren't just spots, or dust, or a trick of light. Maybe they're ghosts, as some people believe. But I'm convinced they're shadow people, beings from a dimension close to our own, but not able to be seen when we fully focus on them. I've always been able to see the shadow people. When I was young, my mother had my eyes checked by several different optometrists because I complained about the things I saw. I learned to keep quiet about them, but it took a while. My first encounter with them took place when I was 3 or 4 years old. We lived in a high-rise flat with a sweeping view of the hills and the city below. My best friend at the time, Michelle, was over on a play date. Her family lived across the landing, and we spent more time together than apart. That day, she greeted me by running into my room, fueled by a ridiculous burst of enthusiasm. "We have to play with my new dolls," she screeched at me. I was much more into dinosaurs and bugs, and that sounded like a terrible way to spend the afternoon. "No," I insisted. "We have to play imagination. Godzilla versus the killer wasps." I tried to stomp around the room and look menacing. Michelle huffed and disappeared. She was much faster than I was, and I wasn't very good at finding hiding people. But for all that, I should have seen her when I turned the corner, and I didn't. Then I saw a shadow lurking at the corner of my vision. Thinking it must be Michelle, I turned towards it, calling her name. There was no answer, and the shadow continued to dance and dart out of my range. There was no answer, and the shadow continued to dance and dart out of range of my direct stare, as if it were avoiding making eye contact with me. As the years went by, I began to believe that the shadow people were my friends, or even my protectors, like guardian angels. But then, the nights became terrifying. I started to see the shadow people in the real shadows of my room. Many of them darted away when I tried to stare at them, but others hung around in the corners, clustering like cobwebs. Then the noise started. It was like the wind caressing leaves until they whispered. It was a different language I couldn't comprehend. Words I knew I would never understand unless I was somehow in their dimension. As the whispering grew more frenetic, the shadow people began to come together and move towards me. I bolted to my parents' room and shook them awake. Of course they didn't believe me, trying to coax me into believing it was just a dream or my imagination. I know it was the shadow people, and if you see a shadow within the shadows, or shape flitting at the edge of your vision, you may not be alone. That was it.
Huzzah!
Yeah.
Very nicely
Wonderful,
done, sir.
wonderful.
Aside from the few slips of the tongue.
Little hiccups here. and
Everyone does that every
Yeah.
once in a while, though.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it happens, yo. And if
Yeah.
people are angry because we stutter, that's because normally in our
There it
videos
is.
there's a lot of editing.
Oh, yeah.
To remove those stuff.
There's like
Right.
mass amounts of editing.
You see, people think, like, I don't know why. Sometimes I get comments where people are just like, dude, how do you read them, like, so, like, with no mistakes? I'm like, I don't read them with no
It
mistakes.
takes a lot of editing.
I
especially-
make the most mistakes in the world.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
so-
I make some mistakes. Too.
Oh yeah, especially with the real ones with a lot of alliteration. Like I think it took me like an hour to edit the Diary of Mr. White. Not Mr. Whitemouth. The
Mr.
Diary of
Well Done?
Mr. Well Done. Yes.
Sorry,
you.
Mr. Whitemouth.
That would actually be that would be interesting.
Let's start some children.
Alright.
I don't do that.
Well then,
So, who wants to go next, since Cosmo's AFK?
I volunteer as tribute.
I guess I'm not going next.
Yeah. While he's doing that, I'm gonna find another one. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess it's me.
Yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'll go after DB if
Yeah,
Cosmo's still around.
I was gonna troll y'all for a second, and be like, "The Spider" by Heinz on Series.
Oh my god, you.
Probably read one of your own.
Take a drink.
Take a drink. That's a really long story. but it is excellent. It's like my favorite story of all time. Okay.
I think they prefer Shadow Americans, though.
Ha ha
Okay.
ha. Yeah.
I don't know if that was racist or not. I can't tell.
No, not really.
It might
Not
be
really.
just a little bit. I know. Okay.
Maybe to shadow people, but no.
All right, Cosmo, do you want to go since you're back?
Sure, yeah.
All right.
Okay. Spot stolen.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, you
Still
go-
going for DB.
Okay.
I'm going next.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna try and.
All right.
Wait, who's going next? I need to know.
Cosmo's going
Cosmo.
next. You, DB, and me.
Okay.
Who's
I
on
think
first?
she's going next.
Second. It's an old joke.
By going next, you mean after me or right now?
Oh, you wanted to go? Okay.
Well, no, I just don't know who's going.
DB was gonna go because you were gone, Cosmo. But
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
Oh.
How many?
Okay. Cosmo, you got a story?
Yes.
This is why I'm here. I explain all the complicated things.
Precisely.
Pretty much.
All right.
You're listening to the Smoking Podcast.
Okay.
Everyone take a drink. Another
All
drink.
right, I'm taking a drink.
All right. Okay, let's just
was
stop. Just stop. Come on, Cosmo, let's go.
Okay. This is a classic story from Ambrose Bierce. It's called The Spook House.
Oh yeah.
On the road leading north. What? Never mind. On the road leading north from Manchester in eastern Kentucky to Boonville, 20 miles away, stood, in 1862, a wooden plantation house of a somewhat better quality than most of the dwellings in that region. The house was destroyed by fire in the year following, probably by some strangers from the retreating column of General George W. Morgan when he was driven from Cumberland Gap to the Ohio River by General Kirby Smith. At the time of its destruction, it had for 4 or 5 years been vacant. The fields about it were overgrown with brambles, the fences gone, even the few gentlemen of African persuasion quarters and outhouses generally fallen partly into ruin by neglect and pillage. For the Negroes and poor whites of the vicinity found in the building and fences an abundant supply of fuel, of which they availed themselves without hesitation, openly and by daylight. By daylight alone, after nightfall, no human being except passing strangers ever went near the place. It was known as the Spook House, that it was tenanted by evil spirits, visible, audible, and active. No one in all that region doubted any more than he doubted what he was told of Sundays by the traveling preacher. Its owner's opinion of the matter was unknown. He and his family had disappeared one night, and no trace of them had ever been found. They left everything: household goods, clothing, provisions, the horses in the stable, the cows in the field, the Negroes in the quarters, all as it stood. Nothing was missing except a man, a woman, 3 girls, a boy, and a babe. It was not altogether surprising that a plantation where 7 human beings could be simultaneously effaced and nobody the wiser should be under some suspicion. One night in June 1859, 2 citizens of Frankfort, Colonel J.C. McCarty, a lawyer, and Judge Myron Vey of the state militia, were driving from Boonville to Manchester. Their business was so important that they decided to push on, despite the darkness and the mutterings of an approaching storm, which eventually broke upon them just as they arrived opposite the Spook House. The lightning was so incessant that they easily found their way through the gateway and into a shed, where they hitched and harnessed their team. Where they hitched and harnessed their team. They then went to the house through the rain and knocked at all the doors without getting any response. Attributing this to the continuous uproar of the thunder, They pushed at one of the doors, which yielded. They entered without further ceremony and closed the door. That instant they were in darkness and silence. Not a gleam of the lightning's unceasing blaze penetrated the windows or crevices. Not a whisper of the awful tumult without reached them there. It was as if they had suddenly been stricken blind and deaf, and McArty afterward said that for a moment he believed himself to have been killed by a stroke of lightning as he crossed the threshold. The rest of this adventure can as well be related in his own words, from the Frankfurt Advocate of August 6, 1876. When I had somewhat recovered from the dazing effect of the transition from uproar to silence, my first impulse was to open the door which I had closed, and from the knob of which I was not conscious of having removed my hand. I felt it distinctly, still in the clasp of my fingers. My notion was to ascertain by stepping again into the storm whether I had been deprived of sight and hearing. I turned the doorknob and pulled open the door. It led into another room. This apartment was suffused with a faint greenish light, the source of which I could not determine, making everything distinctly visible, though nothing was sharply defined. Everything, I say, but in truth the only objects within the blank stone walls of that room were human corpses. In number they were perhaps 8 or 10. It may well be understood that I did not truly count them. They were of different ages, or rather sizes, from infancy up and of both sexes. All were prostrate on the floor, excepting one, apparently a young woman, who sat up, her back supported by an angle of the wall. A babe was clasped in the arms of another and older woman. A half-grown lad lay face down across the legs of a full-bearded man. One or two were nearly naked, and the hand of a young girl held the fragment of a gown which she had torn open at the breast. The bodies were in various stages of decay, all greatly shrunken in face and figure. Some were but little more than skeletons. While I stood stupefied with horror by this ghastly spectacle, and still holding open the door, by some unaccountable perversity, my attention was diverted from the shocking scene, and concerned itself with trifles and details. Perhaps my mind, with an instinct of self-preservation, sought relief in matters which would relax its dangerous tension. I observed that the door that holding open was of heavy iron plates, riveted, equidistant from one another, and from the top and bottom 3 strong bolts protruded from the beveled edge. I turned the knob, and they were retracted flush with the edge, released it, and they shot out. It was a spring lock. On the inside there was no knob, nor any kind of projection, a smooth surface of iron. While noting these things with an interest and attention which it now astonishes me to recall, I felt myself thrust aside, and Judge Vey, whom in the intensity and vicissitudes of my feeling I had altogether forgotten, pushed by me into the room. "For God's sake," I cried, "do not go in there. Let us get out of this dreadful place." He gave no heed to my utterances, but, as fearless a gentleman as lived in all the South, walked quickly to the center of the room, knelt beside one of the bodies for a closer examination, and tenderly raised its blackened and shriveled head in his hands. A strong, disagreeable odor came through the doorway, completely overpowering me. My senses reeled. I felt myself falling, and in clutching at the edge of the door to support, pushed it shut with a sharp click. I remember no more. 6 weeks later, I recovered my reason in a hotel at Manchester, whither I had been taken by strangers the next day. For all these weeks, I had suffered from a nervous fever, attended with constant delirium. I had been found lying in the road, several miles away from the house. But how I had escaped from it to get there, I never knew. On recovery, or as soon as my physicians permitted me to talk, I inquired the fate of Judge Vey, whom, to quiet me as I now know, they represented as well and at home. No one believed a word of my story, and who can wonder? And who can imagine my grief when, arriving at my home in Frankfurt 2 months later, I learned that Judge Vey had never been heard of since that night. I then regretted bitterly the pride which, since the first few days after my recovery of my reason, had forbidden me to repeat my discredited story and insist upon its truth. With all that afterward occurred, the examination of the house, the failure to find any room corresponding to that which I have described, the attempt to have me adjudged insane, and my triumph over my accusers. The readers of The Advocate are familiar. After all these years, I am still confident that excavations which I have neither the legal right to undertake nor the wealth to make would disclose the secret of the disappearance of my unhappy friend, and possibly of the former occupants and owners of the deserted and now destroyed house. I do not despair of yet bringing about such a search, and it is a source of my deep grief that it has been delayed by the undeserved hostility and unwise incredulity of the family and friends of the late Judge Vey. Colonel McCarty died in Frankfurt on the 13th day of December in the year 1879.
Huzzah, huzzah. Very nice.
Thanks.
Although Kentuckians do not speak like that.
Yeah, well.
Cosmo's not the accent guy. He's the
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
Shakespeare
no.
Papa Bavaria had a coast. I'm in good company.
That
Funny,
story
yeah,
is
yeah,
soon to be put on the Midnight Cassette podcast.
Sweet.
It'll be narrated. I think it'll be narrated by Madam
Oh
Pop. I think she wanted to read that one.
God, my internet is taking shit.
Mhm.
I was hearing things about you from chat rooms. They were people are laughing at the accent, but they're saying you sound so convincing. I personally love that. I couldn't stop laughing at some of the things. Examination.
I wasn't sure what the hell.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
I'm
there
not
was
sure
one
what
part of
kind
the
of
story where
accent.
my internet, like, just completely took a shit, and basically what happened was it was just, like, in robot.
Oh.
That just happened now, too, which is, I find funny.
I wasn't sure what type of accent he was even supposed to be.
Well, down here in the South, we
Okay.
apparently sound like a bunch of uneducated hicks.
That was not what I was attempting.
Wait.
I was
Well,
attempting
yes,
the genteel voice of a Kentucky colonel, sir.
Oh, Kentucky
Mhm.
Colonel. Well,
That's
I
not
do
me, that's
appreciate it.
Huh.
all right.
Okay, let me ask, do I really pronounce house weird?
House.
Yes, you say house.
House.
Yeah, because something about my Canadian accent. For some reason, it makes Robin laugh every time.
Chris, I have no idea what nationality you are, to be perfectly honest.
I'm Canadian.
You're Canadian, okay? Because I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because like you
Yeah,
sound like you sound American, and then like house.
Who's?
Shut up. Son of a bitch.
Alright,
What the hell?
So, is DB going next?
Yep.
Yep.
DB's next, and then it's me.
So
Alright.
what chat room
Hopefully
are
my
you looking at?
internet doesn't decide to take
Yeah,
shits
which one?
during my reading.
I don't know.
Oh, wait, what?
Alright, so DB's
Never
What chat room?
All right, so we ready?
I guess so, yeah.
This is a story by a good friend of mine, which is going to be published fairly soon in a book that I'm working on with everyone. It's currently untitled, but it's a smaller publication, and along with this story is going to be published the story Battery Life and the final weeknight. So the story is called A Scarecrow. Let me
And Bucket says he's organized.
organized and accidentally closed the tab. Okay. Let's see here.
Way to go.
I'm really failing. Okay, here we go. Here we
Wondered
go. I got the
Scarecrow.
link. I got the link. I will begin any second now. Okay. So long as my internet functions properly. The live stream is kind of slowing it down. Here we go.
Yeah, I had that problem.
All right. Oh, damn it. A scarecrow. This shows you how much CPN really loves me. All right. It's
What
pretty
the
much.
shit was that?
It's supposed to be a cricket. It sounds better.
He has a pet cricket.
I do.
Really?
Actually, it could be considered a locust, but...
You can actually. There's a way to turn a grasshopper into a locust.
Really
I
now.
can't remember where I saw it. Yeah. It's like you gotta rub its legs a certain amount of times or something.
That's
in,
weird.
in
Well-
a certain way.
Locusts,
Biologically,
You can
that
trigger
doesn't
the
sound right.
transformation.
locusts
Yeah, you can.
are docile like grasshoppers when they're alone. It's only when they're in a big group that they swarm.
Yeah.
There's not much.
I'm
difference,
gonna try.
really.
While DB's narrating, I'm gonna try and find that.
Here we go. This is the story.
Son of a.
Let me just raise the mic a bit. Raise the
I-
mic. Raise the
Yeah.
mic. A Scarecrow by Gentleman Walrus. I can hear the whistling again. It's the final weeknight, and again he has come, whistling that little ditty, repeating it again and again, enough times to drive the sanest of men crazy. I can see through the window, the light through that cornfield, the rustling of plants, the maddening whistling. It's all culminating to a feeling of hopeless dread, like being faced with a gun while you're up against a wall. I know he wants to find me, but I don't know what he wants. I don't want to know what he wants. All I want is for this to be over with. The lamplight is becoming brighter. The whistling is becoming louder. And the dread in my stomach is getting worse and worse every second, with only my need to keep quiet preventing me from either screaming in terror or throwing up from the sickening tension. It feels like time is torturing me, making things seem slower than they are to keep my anxiety level sky high. But it feels all too soon when he finally shows his face through the green fog like plants. All I can see is his smile, stitched, malicious, like it was sewn shut to keep his hatred from spewing forth. The dim lamp swayed back and forth as he came through the corn effortlessly, almost gliding through like a ghost. It's a nauseating sight, seeing his dimly lit figure wander towards my little house, but it's even worse trying to figure out what he even wants from me. Does he want me dead? Does he want me to go mad? I can't tell, but from what I can see, it's not pleasant. My gut tells me to make a run for it, but I know for a fact that he's faster. The times I've tried to escape have usually been the worst, or at least the most terrifying. I felt his cold, clammy hand on my shoulder. That's how close it got. He's at the door. I hear it slowly creeping open. God knows how he can open a locked door, but at this point I am too frightened to care. I hide in my cupboard, sweat dripping out of me like I'm a water balloon that got punctured. The whistling right underneath me, and the constant creaking of floorboards giving me shivers every time I hear it. He's coming up the stairs, and a dim light is slowly creeping through the crack in the cupboard. Brighter and brighter, the whistling getting louder and louder, and every synapse in my body is getting so tense it hurts. The light stops getting brighter, and the whistling, like it's almost right next to my ear. And then I let out a breath. The whistling stops. No. Oh God, no. He knows where I am. He'll find me. And it'll be all over. I can't hear his breathing, just his footsteps. A few seconds go by. No noise, no whistling. Just infinitely tense silence. And then the whistling begins again. He walks away, leaving me in my scared stupor. The door closes. The light fades. And I am left scared and alone, dreading the next night. And dreading that next time I won't be so lucky. Mr. Walrus,
All right.
excellent job with that. That is my favorite creepypasta.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I can see why.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
I found that thing I was talking about earlier. If you rub a grasshopper's hind leg for 5 seconds every minute for 4 hours, it will trigger its brain to transform, swarm, and become locust.
That's stupid.
I can't really watch the video because we're doing this right now, but
Yeah.
it's something about
Citation needed.
No, it's actually the thing's got a link to a National Geographic video.
Who would spend 240 minutes rubbing a cricket's leg?
5 seconds for every. Yeah,
Okay.
holy shit! That
Here's my question. If you took Plague and rubbed his legs together,
You get a massage. That's what you get.
Now you get rashes and
Oh yeah. Oh god.
rub burn and nastiness.
Friction burn.
You might rub some of my hair off.
Oh god! Don't even put that image in my head. Shit.
It could be a lot worse. Like you know
Too late.
that. I don't know.
Oh, you're terrible.
Like you want to talk about putting images in people's heads. Really, you bastard.
I know a perfect place to go there. Welcome to the Dimension Bucket Podcast. Oh wait, take a drink.
Welcome to the Fornication Bucket Podcast, everybody. Just remember Tijuana.
Chugging marijuana.
It's funny.
All
It's funny.
right,
Canada might actually end up legalizing that.
Well, good for you.
Depending on who.
Good for you, Chris, but I believe it's time to move on, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Just random thought.
Let's hear something from Light now.
Alright. I figured I'd start off with one that I did myself, just because I wrote it, and I'm pretty sure I know how to read it.
Yeah.
Alright, so is everybody ready?
yes.
I hope you are, because I'm going to start anyway.
Good.
Okay. So this is called Always Look Behind You.
You're listening to Much
The
Wicked
feeling
Pod.
of being watched. Now, DV, you fucking dick.
Dude, it lagged a million times. It lagged. I think you're getting really bad lag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just now got welcome to
He's
the
a
Fucking
hero at the
podcast.
pool.
You fucking dick.
Alright. Okay, DB, don't say anything. Shush.
Yeah,
I
I think DB fucked my internet
No, that was a mental picture.
in those
I
moments.
didn't really ever.
He's a
Yeah.
sexual deviant.
Shut up, pull out some popcorn, and enjoy the freaking story.
Yeah.
Okay,
really.
okay.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah.
Good.
Have you ever gotten the feeling of being watched? Now, I'm not talking about those moments when you're out in public and you get that feeling. Because then it's most likely someone is watching you, even if you don't really think it could be so. You know, just probability working its way into that situation. No. No, I mean when you're all alone. No one else surrounding, you know it. In that moment, when you feel eyes boring into the back of your skull. Isn't that right? The moment when your stomach knots, your palms get sweaty. The moment when you want to run and hide in your parents' bed like you were still a child. But then you look behind you, see nothing, and relax. Right? Right. But of course you do. You don't know what was there just a moment ago. For you see, well, that's just it, isn't it? The monster only exists when you don't see it. The second you laid your eyes on it, the thing just went poof, right out of existence. You don't remember it, and neither does anyone else. But that doesn't mean you're not in any danger. Let me just say that there's a reason our eyes make it disappear. Your eyes are your only defense. The windows to the soul are what keep it at bay. For it cannot watch a person's soul and still exist as it is. As soon as you blink or look away, however, well, you probably don't want to know. But I'll give you the bloody details anyway. Well, I suppose it can be simply said that it tears out your eyes and then eats them. But you want to know the most horrible part? Do you? Well, again, I'll tell you anyway. Best to be prepared, right? You can still see. You see it looking at you. You who has no eyes at this point. You see it ripping into your body, pulling out your organs, intestines, and eventually your heart, killing you once and for all in one of the most painful and horrifying manners that a human being could ever lay eyes on. And you will see it all, for it loves slow and agonizing death. But why do you see all this? Because the moment you let your eyes get taken, its eyes, milky white orbs that appear far too large in its head, gain pupils. Your pupils. But before all this happens, it's just got some empty white eyes. It can't see you, and when you see it, it can't be real anymore. So, make sure you always look behind you. And oh wait, you're getting that feeling right about now, aren't you? Better hope that you can look behind you fast enough.
Bravo. I remember this story. This is the story I met you about.
I am golf clapping so hard right now.
I am clapping so loudly. If only you could hear it.
No, seriously, I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That
one of the
was
first creepypastas I ever read.
Just a note. You might want to get a bit closer to the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Sure.
turned it way down because the last time it was way too loud.
Yeah, just turn it up just slightly. You know.
Yeah, let me go to
This is
Skype since that's
slightly.
kind of what controls my mic now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skype is all powerful, people. Remember this. That better?
Yeah. Or, you
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah. That should be
your
good.
volume control options.
Yeah, that's always good. Just
I
save
like how
those.
Squeaky. I'm a bit late to respond to this, but Squeaky McScares a lot responded, "Touch the scarecrow's butt. That will stop him."
And we all know Robin just loves to touch the booty. That's why
Yes,
Cosmo is such a
exactly.
lucky man. He loves anal rape.
Oh.
Wait, what the fuck?
No one ever said I was a decent person.
Oh, and Bucket.
No one ever will.
Bucket.
Yep.
Just
Doom
say
says-
fucking go with it. You
Doom
know?
says to read Day of All the Walking.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
read that one. I'll read that one after I do my next story, and that's
Yeah,
I
dude,
believe
we
that's
gotta
after.
do like a third session troll pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone fine.
We're not even through the first session yet.
I know.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we still got plague and
Yeah.
we still got
Plague for the
plague.
first round.
All right,
Alright.
Plague. What are you gonna read for us tonight?
I am going to read another story by Walrus.
All right,
The Gentleman Walrus.
the
To be
gentleman
exact.
The
Volvis.
gentleman's
I believe
vulgar.
this is the other one that's being published in our little book.
It is
Son
a
of a
great.
bitch.
Yeah. Hey, the moral of this story before I let you read it: don't gamble, kids.
Yeah, because that's not reiterated enough in modern.
Don't go to
literature and
Vegas.
Oh yeah.
media.
That's it. That's all I'm saying.
Don't go to Vegas. I'm pretty sure the Hangover movie kind of beat you to that little.
Yeah, pretty much. Or you know, Dick Figures did the same thing.
All right. So, shall we get this started?
All right, go
Okay.
ahead, Peg.
Yep.
Serenade the ladies with your
I gotta
voice.
find my new story.
Actually, no,
Next story.
you're gonna burn their ears off. Don't, please.
They don't need them.
No,
Yeah,
they
sure.
kind of do. You're gonna burn
Yeah.
my ears off too, even though they don't work.
All right. So let's get this started. Battery Life by the Gentleman Walrus. I awoke very much like the majority of my mornings, with a hangover. I clutched my forehead and moaned in dizzy agony as I slowly but surely opened my tired eyes. But something was different. In fact, not just something, but many things by the looks of things. Or lack of things. Blackness, utter blackness is what I awoke to as I tried to fumble for my lamp switch, only to roll over onto a cold, steel floor. I blinked in the dark before fumbling in my suit pocket for my phone. 10% battery. Darn. I shone it around to find what I was certainly not in my grubby as hell apartment, but in something far, far worse. Don't get me wrong, the apartment I stay in isn't exactly well kept, but the room I woke in was so devoid of anything it made its looks like a damn palace, black and brown and God knows what else stained in the steel flooring as I stumbled to my feet, shining the light everywhere I could to get a clear view on things. No windows, no light, no vents, not even a door was in this unpleasant box. 9% battery. Confused, I tried to think back to what happened the night before. There was drinking, of course. There was gambling, but there was something else, something sinister. I thought to myself, scratching my brow. Aha! It hit me. I had a run-in with a debt collector. Well, being a gambling man, I guess it made sense that I probably owed money to, well, all sorts of people. But I didn't expect someone the size of a bull to stop me outside of the casino. After a fruitless few rounds of poker, he dragged me by the collar and threw me in a van and drove me off to God knows where. I guess I fell asleep. Or maybe it was being punched in the face after I heard the door open. 8% battery. I sat down again, waiting for some form of human contact. I had been in these situations before. I knew it was going down. Some clown in a fancy suit was going to come down here and beat me senseless and throw me outside. Nothing new, I thought, but of course that would be too easy. Click. Whir. Something was moving outside of the box. Something like a vehicle, I thought, still blissfully unaware of what was to come next. What was going on, I thought, as I leaned against the wall, but before I knew it, I felt I was slowly being pushed forward. I jumped away for it, pointing my phone at the walls. It hit me then, a crushing realization. It wasn't a vehicle that was moving. No, it was the walls themselves, the centers of which had large, red, sickening stains. 7% battery. If there was any way out of this, I needed to find it fast. I felt around the walls as fast as I could, frantically slamming my hands onto the metal walls as I fruitlessly scrambled across the room. I stopped, paused, and took a breath. The walls were at least 10 meters away from me. I had time. I had time to find a way out, to escape. I was sure of it. Collecting myself, I took a breath before taking my phone. I took a breath before taking back my phone and shone it around once more. 6% battery. Come on, I thought. There had to be something, anything. I screamed for help, for dear life, as I felt and slammed against the walls madly. 5% battery. I sat and did the last thing any sane man would do in this situation. I laughed. I laughed like I had been told the funniest joke in the world, like I had been gassed or something. I screamed to the deaf walls. Out of all things, I shouted, still laughing madly. Out of all things you could have used to intimidate me, oh, this takes the cake. Very funny, I yelled. Very funny, trapping me in here to teach me a lesson. I get it. No more gambling. No more money lending. I know you're just kidding. Just please let me go. I waited for a response, for the walls to stop making their groans, for them to stop moving, as if my brash screeches would make an effort. I know you're not going to kill me. You might as well stop now. 4% battery. After a few seconds of nothing, I screamed louder than ever. No laughter this time, just pure, hot-blooded rage as I pounded furiously against the walls, which still honed in. I shot obscenities left and right, kicking and punching in the black darkness like a toddler in a tantrum. Before long, my fatigue got the best of me, and I sat down, defeated, spent. 3% battery. The walls were close. 5 more minutes and I would be a modern art masterpiece. What else was there to do? I thought as I panted, thinking hard on whether there was any way out. I decided to do the only thing I could do. If you let me out, I'll pay you back. I've got the money, I pleaded, weakly. I promise. I'll pay you back with interest. Just let me go and you'll get your money, please. I waited, with bated breath, for a response, and against all odds, the walls stopped. I was dumbstruck. Had my pleas worked? I waited in the dark, now noiseless room. But sure enough, to my utter terror, the whir of the walls came back to motion, and they started to crawl towards me once more, now over halfway to me. There was no hope for me now. No hope at all. 2% battery. I sobbed, babbling like an infant as tears streamed from my eyes, as memories of my friends, of my life flashed in my mind. I had so much to live for. Why did it have to be me? I wallowed in my self-pity for a time before it seemed the wells of tears had all but dried up. I wiped my sore eyes before I went back to my phone, flicked through my contacts to possibly make a few last-minute texts. Apologies, mostly. 1% girlfriend. 1% battery. Ex-girlfriend? Nah. Dad? Nah. Mama? Yeah, I decided. I wrote a new text to her and typed some simple last few words. Sorry for being such an ass. She'll giggle at that, even if it is a bit morbid. I closed my eyes. I was ready for this. I guess I kind of deserved this, considering how many lives I've ruined and how much of the other people's time I've wasted. I guess this was kind of fitting for my end, and it beat some of the dumb ways the other gamblers went. I waited in the dark box for death to come, for the time to run out. My phone beeped, and then it died. God, that sucked.
I thought
That
that was
was
part of the.
it.
I've read this story before, but for a second I was like, that's part of the story?
No.
Like I was gone for half of it, getting something to like snack on, and that like when I came back, all I'm thinking is like, why am I listening to Plague read this?
Yeah. So at this point, the third one, when we finally get around to the third time, we're all going to do troll pasta, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, I'm not gonna do a troll pasta. I'm just gonna troll you guys on an extra long one. So leave
Oh,
me for
shit.
last.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to do Slender Twilight for my third.
Oh god.
Why
I
not?
thought you meant right now. I'm like,
no,
oh no.
no, for my last one. No, for
Okay,
my
yeah,
third
yeah.
one. For my third one. This one. Yeah. I might even try and do a voice for that. Okay.
God, that was terrible.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. Gonna start now. The Moth at My Window by Thrextax. The following is by a 17-year-old boy, Josh Brown, found dead at a local park. It's the season of the Luna Moth. Luna moths are large green moths that remind me of birds. They always make me feel strange when they're around. They gather in large numbers at midnight and make the loudest buzzing noise. One night, I saw a Luna moth sitting on my bedroom window. It was a strange moth. It stared at me with the oddest look on its face. It had broken a wing and a messed up eye. I got a weird feeling from that moth. I decided to feed it to my pet frog. He's a very large
When you're
frog.
dating a rich girl, you have a 1% girlfriend? Oh, sorry.
You piece of shit.
Sorry.
Oh my
Good Cosmo.
Thanks a lot, dude.
I honestly keep thinking he's saying Venomoth like the fucking Pokemon. I'm like, what?
You know, okay. You know, but again, I've got to start from the beginning. Thanks a lot. Oh, yeah, it's a good thing I was only like another paragraph in. Every time! Every freaking time. It's always one paragraph in. Okay. Mute your mic, dude.
Sorry.
Okay. The Moth at My Window by Thrextax. The following is by a 17-year-old boy, Josh Brown, found dead at a local park. It's the season of the Luna Moth. Luna moths are large green moths that remind me of birds. They always make me feel strange when they're around. They gather in large numbers at midnight and make the loudest buzzing noise. One night, I saw a Luna moth sitting on my bedroom window. It was a strange moth. It stared at me with the oddest look on its face. It had a broken wing and a messed up eye. I got a weird feeling from that moth. I decided to feed it to my pet frog. He's a very large bullfrog that eats everything I feed him. I put the moth in the cage. The frog ate it right away, but after he ate it, I felt a strange gnawing feeling in my stomach. It was as though I was being eaten alive from the inside. I went to lie down, and at the edge of my bed, I saw what seemed to be the same odd-looking moth I'd just fed to my frog. Same broken wing, same messed up eye. But I knew it couldn't be the same moth. I caught it and set it free outside. I went back to my bed and was just about to go to sleep when I heard a noise. I opened my eyes and saw a moth right outside my window. It seemed like he was looking right at me. It was uncanny how he looked just like the other two moths from before. I felt nervous and started to think crazy thoughts. Like there was a whole army of moths just outside, swarming my house, hunting me down. I realized how crazy I was thinking, so I made myself forget about it and go to sleep. The next morning I met my friend Tyler in front of the school, and I told him about the Luna moths. He looked at me with a weird look, like the story freaked him out. He quickly changed the subject. 2 days passed and no sign of any moths. After a while, I forgot about them completely until April 5th. That night, in bed, I looked out the window and saw what looked like the same moth from the other day. Same broken wing, same messed up eye, same strange gnawing feeling in my stomach. The more it stared at me, the more nervous I felt. I rolled over and tried to ignore it, but I could tell it was still there, staring at me. The next day I saw Tyler. When I said hi to him, he looked at me with a strange, evil-looking grin. He said, somewhat ominously, "Hello," and walked away. That night, the same moth appeared at my window. Enough is enough, I thought. I went outside and killed it. I felt a huge burden was lifted off my shoulders. Later, I woke up to hear a strange bellowing sound coming from the hallway. I grabbed a pocket knife from my bedside table, opened the blade, and then looked at my bedroom door. What I saw nearly made me jump out of my skin. Tyler was standing in the hall, covered in blood. He almost looked like a zombie, staring at me with blank eyes. Scared, I threw the knife at Tyler, but my aim was awful and missed him by a foot. I stared in horror. Hundreds of moths of all different types crawled out of his eyes and mouth, covering his body, and ate him within 20 seconds. I threw up at the sight of it. Then the moths began to attack me. They were all over me, cutting me with their blade-like wings and trying to eat me. I lost a lot of blood, and fainted. I woke up in my bed the next morning, and everything seemed normal. No blood, no cuts. Nervously, I got out of my bed and looked down the hallway. Nothing. It's like it never happened. I wonder, could it have all been a dream? I grabbed my cell to call Tyler, but his name wasn't in my contact list. I went to school, and no sign of him there either. I asked another friend if he'd seen Tyler around, but he just looked at me like I was crazy. I asked everyone I knew if they'd seen Tyler, and they all said the same thing. Who's Tyler? After school, I sat in my room and wondered if I was crazy. Had it all been a dream? Not just last night, but also the 2 years I thought I knew Tyler? Was it all just one long dream? It's been a while now, and it does feel like it was all a dream. Everything's back to normal. I think I'll go take a walk in the park. That's it.
That was so
Okay.
anticlimactic that it made me cry.
Yeah, that was...
A single tear of pain fell down my face.
Yeah, I really should have... That was my second choice for that one, too. I was going to... I
Seriously?
don't know why.
I'm choosing one that actually just it's not satisfying, but
I know. I was going to do the night. I was going to do the night walk, but I don't know why I changed. Why I
I
should
would
have
have just done the original one. It probably would have been more
Yeah.
satisfying for everyone.
The night walk was the one I was going to do originally. I don't know why it changed.
Is Mr. Fish here?
So are we still reading Creepypasta, or are we on to Crappypasta?
No,
No,
that's
no.
next. That's next.
That's
for
our, that's
everybody.
the third. That's the third go.
Yeah, that's the third set. My question is, are we quitting after the third set, or are we just going on to talk about random shit after that?
Why not random shit?
Random shit, and then some more creepypasta.
Random
You
shit,
can't-
then quit. That's.
Nah, I'd say one more creepypasta from someone.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
You can never have too much creepypasta.
Let me pull something up.
Cosmo, I have both of mine up right now, so I'm like the
Totally
most prepared person.
Cosmo. That's what we got.
Yeah, I got nothing. Somebody else go while I find one.
Okay, I guess I'll go.
I'm going
not
through all,
going,
going
I'm
through
gonna
all
save
these
mine.
comments. Going through all this.
At least if I go there,
chat now.
it's still sort of in
After
order.
reading it. Shit.
Let's see
Okay.
here. Okay.
You good to go, DB?
Huh?
Good to go?
Yep, I'm good to go. Let me just.
All right, don't come prematurely now.
Okay then.
Okay. Well then.
I
Right.
just
By the way,
Stay in
I
mind
heard
of that
Lana,
road.
you complaining
It's
that I
really fucked
that I
up.
that I played a little bit of music when I started. So I tell you what, I'll play some music for you.
Oh, you fuck!
Start.
You fucker! And I think Plague just left us.
Okay. Oh, we did?
I think the Plague Bringer just
crap.
left us.
I'm here. I thought that.
Isn't this going on to his channel?
I have
Yeah.
no. I think it's,
I'm in
How the hell does that work?
organization.
how are we still live? Like, who's
Okay,
live
well,
streaming
I
this?
don't know.
Oh, okay, hold on.
I don't know.
Since
Um,
Light,
Isn't-
since Light read one, I'm gonna be narcissistic and read one of my own as well.
Yeah.
I'm
The only reason I read one of
right,
my own is because I'm kind of new to reading, so you know.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I was just getting
Yeah,
around.
that
I
makes
know.
sense. You narrate
I
one that
don't
you
narrate a lot, so like my skills are probably better when I read something of my own.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Now I know which one I should have done. I should have done
So-
the ones I entered in the contest.
All right. Well, then I'm ready to read whenever.
All right.
Yeah.
Alright, then we'll go Cosmo, DB,
yeah,
me,
sorry.
and then Chris
God
again.
damn it! I always get.
Cause DB always gets like the back seat, like when we're choosing like a four-seater, like it's Chris in the front seat, Cosmo takes shotgun, I get in the back seat, and then I'm just like I'm all spread out, so DB has to sit in the trunk.
So I have to sit on your legs.
No, yeah, oh God, no, I don't want that image in my head.
If this car's a rockin', it's haunted.
Oh God, that is just terrible. No, fuck you, Cosmo. Wait, DB, you are live streaming this, right?
It's
I-
going on a play.
Well, how the
No.
fuck is Plague live
don't
streaming this? He
know.
isn't even here.
Okay. Here's how it works. It's still going up
Oh.
on his channel,
Okay,
even though he's gone.
the Plague Bringer is here.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
You had 1%
Did your
growth.
internet like
Okay,
die for 2 seconds?
It did actually die. It went to a no internet connection whatsoever.
Ah, that happens to me sometimes for some reason.
Okay, I must have completely missed this, but 1% growth, and what the hell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Hey, cut him some slack. He just lost 99% of his girlfriend. He's
What?
grieving.
oh God.
What?
Okay. So who's
That went
going?
right over my head.
I guess Cosmo. Let's just
Okay.
do that.
Yep.
And you, and then
Bring in the flying fish.
Yeah.
All
Bring in
right, time for me to
Cosmic
rock the
Fish.
mic once again. Are you
Bring in
ready?
Cosmo
Detroit?
Nazi Fish.
So, continuing the theme, I bring you another pasta set in the great state of Kentucky.
Oh, God.
This is my own composition. It's called Pigs.
I wonder if he knows he's muted.
Sorry, I accidentally went muted.
I'm playing the music here. You're like,
All right.
Cosmo's very new
I'll
to
be
this.
right.
Cut him some slack, people.
Yeah, I've only been doing this since October. I'm so new.
Wait, really? I thought... No, no,
Wow, that sounded douchey. I didn't intend it that way.
I gotta remember. I gotta actually go see how long I've been doing that. I can't remember.
All right. Are we ready?
Yep.
Yes, we're ready to.
Toby
we're ready
Mills
to hear
wins
your
Dizzy
posh
Phelps.
accent again.
Yeah, start.
Toby Mills winced as he felt the soft ground give way under his foot. He had stepped in a cow pie, ruining his brand new Armani loafers. Son of a... he said under his breath. Toby swiped at the shoe with his new handkerchief as he swayed and bounced on one foot. Maybe trying to walk 5 miles back to the gas station was a bad idea, he thought. A split second later, he fell backwards, just scarcely missing the sea of droppings. Out of gas, in the middle of Incest Bluffs, Kentucky. What a frickin' wonderful setting for a Harvard Business School grad, said Tony to no one in particular. I was gonna buy a penthouse, damn it. The involuntary lie-down made Toby realize all at once how little he'd slept in the past couple of days. He closed his eyes and imagined the king-sized bed with satin sheets in his Lost Cause penthouse, a bottle of Patron on ice next to the bed, a $3,000 per night hooker in his arms. It might as well be heaven. If only chicks today weren't so frickin' hypersensitive, he thought. Sheila Pawlowski, luscious, young, obvious daddy issues. Even now, the thought of her in that tight skirt got Toby a little excited. Ever since high school, Toby had had an easy time with any girl he wanted. It didn't matter how cynical, how feminist, how Catholic, how taken she was. All he had to do was flash that smile his parents had paid so much for, and offer her a ride in the red Maserati nicknamed the Rubber Wagon, and she was his for as long as he wanted her. Of course, there were so many other pigeons in the sky. As long as was never all that long to Tony. Why should it be, he thought. When you're this much of a god, it's a crime not to share it with the world. He always told his friends when they asked why he'd never had a steady girlfriend. That is, until Sheila. As much as she still turned him on, Toby couldn't help but feel a little rage when he thought of her. Why did she have to be so sensitive? Why did she have to file a sexual harassment claim? There was only a little hair smelling and a tiny pinch. I was just being friendly, for crying out loud, Toby thought. He wasn't mad at his boss. How could he be mad at keg stand Greg Johnson from back at Theta House? Greg's hands were tied. Damn political correctness. He did all he could to keep Tony from being fired. I've called in all the favors that I can. This is all I can do for you, man. The sales division has an opening out in Louisville, Kentucky. Basically, you'd be hoofing it around those parts of farm country with crappy cell service, shilling grain and pesticides in person, Greg said. Come on, Greg. Intern work? Toby said. That's really all you can do? It's either that or take a bunch of rehab classes and see if the mail room down at Chalmers Agriculture is available, Greg said. Times have changed since we were in school, man. All these companies have a zero-tolerance policy now. Toby sighed. Well, thanks for doing all you can, he said. Guess I'll see you on Phil Gunderson's yacht on Labor Day if I don't get shot by the Deliverance Kid or something. Toby had to admit that Louisville was not as bad as he thought it would be. Yes, there wasn't a woman in sight above a 6 or 7, but Greg had managed to get him a nice enough apartment, and the company car that he had free use of wasn't too old and clunky. He could make a passable life here, he thought. Maybe he could even spread a little Chicago class to the Louisville club scene. That is, if he wasn't wasting all his weekends driving into the sticks, staying in rancid motels, and courting E. coli in roadside diners to sell pesticides and growth additives to mouth breathers and faded dungarees. Toby always managed to make it through without too many problems, though. These hicks were pretty easy to charm, after all. In no time, he had become the Louisville sales branch's top mover of pesticides. All he had to do was have some lemonade with them, tell them how pretty their ugly daughter was. And sometimes he'd even get some farm-fresh eggs or cured venison out of the deal. As disgusting as it was for him out in the Valley of the Rubes, at least it was the easiest work he'd had in a while. Wake up, boy. You're going to get heat stroke lying in the road like this if someone doesn't run you over, said a voice. Toby yawned and opened his eyes to see a gaunt, older man in flannels, poking him with a stick. Toby leapt to his feet, startled. That must have been your car I saw on the side of the road a couple miles back, the old man said, pointing to Toby's gas can. The old man chuckled and extended his hand. The name's Pete Kearns. You look like you could use a ride. Toby almost had to cover his ears from all the squealing in the back of the truck as he climbed in the cab and buckled up. Pigs, huh? We have a lot of local pig farmers on the client roll, Toby said. He'd always believed that the greatest salesmen were on the hunt for a score, even when they were distracted. You must be one of those agricultural salesmen from Louisville, then, Pete said as the old truck struggled to start. We've had you folks out to the farm a couple of times. Can't say I've really been interested in your products, though. No offense. That must have been before I transferred in, said Toby. You'd have bought if I was selling to you. You're pretty dang sure of yourself, boy, said Pete. You remind me of my nephew Earl. Was he in sales? Toby asked. Pete paused and inhaled through his nose. No, he was a pig farmer, he said. You just remind me of the glint in his eye and the way he talked. I take it you're one for the ladies, too. Yeah, so was Earl. Pete sighed as his eyes fixed on the empty road ahead. He lives around here? Toby asked, half interested in the responses. Pete was silent for a moment. He passed on, Pete said. We call it the hog's breath. He didn't last more than a few days. Still, I suppose he brought the wrath of God on himself, planning to run out on his young wife like he did. Pete's hands shook a bit. Both men's eyes snapped to the sight of a rundown diner coming into view over the crest of the hill. This place has a phone that works once in a while. Let's see if we can't get you situated. Toby was more eager for anything to replace the smell of 10 unhappy hogs. Even the smell of cigarettes, palm olive, and stale beer that greeted him at the door of Morley's Bar and Grill gave him a sense of comfort in comparison. Pete waved at 3 men his own age, sitting at a smoky booth and pouring their eyes over the newspaper and gravy over some gargantuan pork chops. Toby Mills, meet my cousin Kilroy Potts, and the Gorman twins, Hank and Aldo, Pete said. Toby gave the men perfunctory handshakes and half-hearted smiles as he headed for the counter to ask for the phone. A moment later, no dial tone? Yeah, that happens a lot out here, Shug, said the waitress. You hungry? How about some pork pies? College kids in here from the city sure love them. They're on special. Toby declined and headed back to the booth, wondering what sort of college could possibly produce students who saw Morley's greasy spoon of death as a spring break hotspot. As he neared the table, Toby noticed that old Kilroy seemed to be crying. Why'd she have to do it, Pete? Why'd she have to take my only boy? Kilroy asked as he struggled to hold back tears. His mom has been so lonely without him. Even Arlene said she would rather have given him another chance than have this happen. The Gormans glanced at one another like they were caught in the lead-up to a gang shootout. Toby would later recall that even the air began to feel a lot muggier, more stale and sweaty than it had when he had even come in. Pete placed a hand on his cousin's. Kilroy, I agree with you, and I would help you if I could. You know I would. But I just can't defy her. She gives the orders, and we have to deal with it. That's the bargain that our pappy made. It's the bargain that his pappy made. You know this. Kilroy nodded slowly as Aldo Gorman looked up at Toby. No phone service, Toby said, halting to... No phone service, Toby said, hating to starve his curiosity. Yeah, I figured as much, said Pete. We better get going. Come around in the morning, Kilroy. We'll go see Pastor Black about this if you want. It'll be okay. As they got back on the road, Toby's head swam with questions. Who was she? What happened to Kilroy's son? If Kilroy's son was the late Earl, then why did he refer to an illness as the poor guy being taken? Was it just some religious thing? If so, it didn't sound very Protestant to him. He decided to begin his interrogation innocuously. So this Hog's Breath, has County Health been... Toby's head almost smacked against the window as Pete jerked the wheel right and turned onto a dirt road at the last second. Sorry about that, Pete said. It's getting dark. You're going to have to stay with us tonight. I'll take you into Lofton's Bend for a can of gas and get you back to your car in the morning. What? I'm on a schedule, Tony said. I've got to be all the way in Weems by tomorrow. You've got headlights. Why can't we keep going? Pete's countenance fell. I'd like to help you, son. I really would. But around here, folks don't go out at night without permission, except in emergencies, and your predicament just doesn't qualify. Why shouldn't it? Tony said. Without people like me, you smallholders would be out of business, and I'm just barely going to make it to Weems on time as it is. I just can't, said Pete. For a moment, Toby thought the older man was going to break down crying. Don't worry, just let me call your office when we get to Lofton's Bend tomorrow. I'll explain everything so you don't get in trouble. Now, just relax. The missus will be cooking up a fine ham that I butchered just yesterday. We'll get a nice soft bed ready for you, and I'll even uncork some of my good cider. Toby was a little tired, after all. Maybe this rube really could work some magic on his bosses and get him off the hook. Toby had actually been impressed by old Pete's communication skills. Oh, all right, Toby said and stretched. As sunset faded into twilight, the truck came to a well-kept 19th century farmhouse, nestled in a dale about 2 miles from the highway. A plump, graying woman stepped out onto the porch, just as they pulled up to what Toby swore could pass for the set of the Waltons. That is, if the Waltons took place inside a sauna. Toby still couldn't figure out why the strange mugginess of the diner was lingering all the way out here and after the sun went down. It should have been cooling off. The woman smiled and waved at them as 2 large men in ill-fitting denim overalls rushed to the back of the truck to unload the pigs with Pete. Well, you must be the man from the city, the woman said. I'm Beulah, Mr. Curran's wife. How do you do, ma'am? I'm Toby Mills. Toby strained to remember when Pete could have called her to expect a house guest. Pete had been chatting with his friends the whole time at the diner, even if the phone reception had suddenly come back through, which Toby doubted. He forgot all about it when he saw what came out of the door next. She was a tall, buxom brunette with a cute short haircut, wearing a blue floral print dress that hugged her midsection to show off her curves. She had the most amazing pale blue eyes. They almost seemed to be of another world. They sparkled in the light of the porch with an odd reflective quality that nearly made Toby shudder. The mysterious woman shot a smile in his direction, and before Toby could open his mouth in greeting, darted off toward what he assumed was the barn. That's my daughter, Polly, Pete said from behind Toby. She can be a bit rude sometimes, but don't pay her no mind. She couldn't sit still ever since she was a little tiny thing. The kids can finish putting the pigs away. Come on in and relax. Toby was about to comment on Polly's beauty, along with an obsequious comment on Mrs. Kern's own, when he was ushered somewhat forcefully into the warm house. It was a very quaint setup. Hardwood floors and grayish wallpaper with little white flowers on it. There were also paintings of pigs, photos of proud farmers next to their prize-winning sows, and little curio statues of pigs everywhere. Toby couldn't help but laugh under his breath that these pig farmers chose to surround themselves with evidence of their work, even in off hours. The first floor was rounded out by a small but tidy kitchen with what looked to be 1970s appliances, and a sofa and ancient-looking armchairs huddled around an old TV that seemed to only be showing static. In one of the living room armchairs sat an old woman. She was so small compared to the chair that Toby hadn't even seen her when he came in the door. Her wrinkled, claw-like hands gripped fast to the arms of the chair like the talons of an eagle. Aside from a quick sideways glance at Tony, she stared straight at the TV, her eyes boring into static like a drill into solid rock. "That's my mother," said Beulah. "She hasn't been able to speak or move around much since the stroke, but she sure does love visitors, don't you, Ma?" The old lady didn't glance up. She just mumbled something angry-sounding. "Don't be like that, Ma. Mr. Mills was stranded on his way from the city, and he's only staying here for a night." It was as if she was in awe of her mother, maybe even afraid of her, even in this helpless state. Toby just brushed it off as the result of a lifetime of memories of deference. "Well, she's in a bit of a sour mood," Beulah said. "I think she's just mad that her game shows aren't coming in right." Beulah banged on the TV set to no apparent avail, and the old lady strained anew as if trying to make out an image. The oven alarm dinged as Polly and the two men came back into the house. "Were the pigs any trouble?" Pete said. "No trouble at all, Dad," said the man with the shaved head, who Toby would come to learn was called Mike. "Earl's getting pretty fat. Might be a good time to turn him into meat," said the blond one, Sam. "You named the pig after your dead nephew," Toby said as he attempted to sit down next to Polly, who only rose to go to her grandmother in the living room. "Oh, no. The pig is Earl Jr.," said Beulah as she set out the side dishes. "Earl, our nephew, raised it from a piglet. It's just a silly little naming custom around here. We inherited it when Earl passed away, bless his soul. Butter for your potatoes, Father?" "No, ma'am, I'm set up right here," said Pete with a wide grin. Toby noticed that Polly was tasked with feeding the old woman. He had never been more jealous of a stroke victim in his life. "So, you folks must be doing pretty well for yourselves this year, despite the drought of the summer." "It's been fair," said Pete, nodding slowly. "It's all thanks to Gran," Mike said before his mother shot him the stare of death. "What do you mean?" Toby asked. "Oh, it's just a silly superstition the boys have. Don't encourage them any," said Beulah. "Gran has what folks around here used to call the knack," Polly said from her grandmother's side in the living room. "The knack? You mean like witchcraft?" Toby said. "She gives us rain and makes the hay grow fast and make the pigs nice and fat and everything," Sam said. It's just a silly story she used to tell the kids. That's all," Beulah said. "And I'll thank all of you not to make us look bad by spreading such nonsense in front of our guest." After dinner, the family gathered around the TV to see if they could get enough reception from the city to watch Nick at Night. But Toby felt a bit ill, decided to go to bed early. Pete showed him to the guest room upstairs, a cozy little room under the roof with a single-sized bed and a bare bulb dangling from the ceiling. Well, sleep tight. Holler if you need anything, Toby said. For a moment, Toby wanted to ask him if he believed the old lady was really a witch. He wanted to ask him about the conversation at the diner. He wanted to ask Pete why he'd felt like he'd been in an oven all evening since the diner. He thought better of himself at the last second and decided it was all country foolishness. Good night, Pete. Thanks for putting me up, Toby said. Pete seemed to prepare to say something, but then just nodded quickly at the floor and shut the door. Toby lay there in the dark, fantasizing about Polly and listening to the sounds of the night. He had wanted to sneak into her room and seduce her that evening. By the time the faint sounds of TV and laughter had died down, though, he decided that might be bad for his job if he got caught or if Polly rebuffed and reported his advances. He decided that he would find a way to approach her tomorrow, perhaps after breakfast. Pete imagined Polly next to him in that penthouse, those intriguing eyes of hers looking longingly up at him, ready to do anything to be pleased. Maybe this whole assignment has been worth it after all, he said as he yawned. As he turned over in the warm air, he felt safe and cozy like a baby. After all, why shouldn't things be all right? It wouldn't be too long until the heat was off and Johnson could get him transferred back to Chicago. Maybe having Polly on his arm, as he knew she soon would even be a help with selling more product to the Hicks. As sleep found him, Toby licked his lips, thinking how grateful and docile he hoped the country girl would be when he took her out of this squalor and into the Chicago jet set. Toby woke up with a start from a nightmare. Reaching for the pitcher of water on the nightstand, he swore as he heard it drop to the floor. Rising from bed to turn the light on, he happened to look out the window at the barnyard below, just for a second. That second was all it took for Toby's blood to freeze. There, in the middle of the barnyard, distinctly visible in the moonlight, was a massive, fat, black pig, standing perfectly on its hind legs and staring up at him. The two looked into each other's eyes for what must have been at least 5 minutes. Then the pig let out a shrill screech that didn't sound like any pig noise that Toby had ever heard. It sounded more like a foghorn, somehow combined with the hissing of a cat and a woman's scream at the same time. As Toby slapped his hands against his ears to shield the pain, he saw what seemed to be a pale blue mist coming from the half-open barn door behind the hideous creature. It circled around the pig in a lazy arc, almost beautiful as it reflected the moonlight. Toby was too frightened to move, even as the pale blue mist wafted higher and higher in the air. As the mist reached his level, Toby willed himself through sheer adrenaline to run for safety. The mist began to somehow thicken and press against the window. Heavy condensation spread over every square inch of the glass. Toby began to scream as it fractured and shattered into uncountable tiny pieces on the floor. "Pete! Anybody! For the love of God, get in here!" Toby wrenched his eyes away from the encroaching mist and banged on the door. Had Pete locked him in? The thick, almost palpable mist now nearly filling the small room. Toby began to feel as if something cold and clammy was grabbing at his clothing, trying to pull him toward the window. He hurled himself against the door as he continued to scream, receiving not a peep of acknowledgement from the other side. In fact, the lights in the hall weren't even on. The next day, the Kearns family sat down to breakfast after a restful night. Pete made his good raspberry pancakes with eggs, bacon, and pork sausage, Sam's favorite. As a crash rang out from the barnyard, Sam and Mike grumbled as they left the table. The new pig must have been awake and making a ruckus. Sam knew he had to tend to it carefully. Kilroy and Pastor Black had been made aware in the night that the Kearns were almost done fattening it up for a feast. Polly waited till Sam was out the door and took some of the bacon off his plate to give a little extra to her beloved Gran. Mic drop.
That
Man,
was
that was a long one. That
that was a
fun.
long one, but it was good.
Thanks.
I pretty much that was about to end. It was like, and then kicks me from the call, and I was just like, no, you don't get to finish this. You don't get to hear the end.
Oh, sorry.
No, not you, Casa. It's just like
I'll
basically.
send you the link. You can read the rest of it.
I don't mind. I can guess where it went. I got enough info.
All right.
Yeah. My internet's a dick. Let's just leave it at that.
Alright. So
That's worse.
here's what we've got going. Light, you're gonna read next, then we got DB with his short pasta, and then we're gonna have a guest. Do 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 do.
I wonder if he realizes he's still muted.
Yeah.
I do. I just didn't know if it was safe for me to talk yet.
Oh,
Nah, shut up.
He kind of already spoiled it, so.
Kermit.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know who the guest was. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, no, they would. Well, they would. They can see who's in the.
Yeah,
They
it's
can
kinda
see who's
true,
talking.
like,
Like,
You
really.
think they're actually looking?
You never know.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, anyone who
Maybe.
knows the lesser.
Alright.
So I guess I ruined the surprise, huh? Well.
Yeah, special guest.
Oh my
Kermit
God!
the
It's Kermit the
Frog.
Frog.
You know,
Oh, that's right,
happen.
folks.
You know what's gonna happen? It's like,
Yay.
and now we begin our special long pasta. And then, like, Doom gets kicked out, and, like, Mr. Creepypasta hops in. He's like, hey,
MCB's just like, MCB's
Plot
just like,
twist.
bitches.
Whoops. That would have been freaking. That would be freaking
And then I
hilarious.
immediately just go do something else completely.
DB just gives up
Doom
on
was
life.
just here for show.
Alright.
I'm just here for show. You're just here for show.
We're all just here for show.
Pretty much.
You're all
Yes,
show.
we're all
girls.
going to show ourselves.
You all are chauvinists.
You know.
chauvinists.
Well, technically,
Alright,
I'll show you my pianist. Wait. Dun, 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 dun.
Okay, let's stop
Okay,
digging
how
this
are we
hole
doing
while we
this?
can. Let's stop digging this grave while we can. Light, let's go.
Alright, give me like 2 seconds.
Right, I'm
Just
gonna play a
to
special
paper.
song.
One.
I'm gonna play a special song while he starts up here.
I'm literally, all I have to do is literally
This is
click
gonna
the
be the
tab.
sexy bit.
I know. A little. No, this is your intro
Let him
song.
play
Right?
it.
The merry-go-round broke down.
That was the sound of me slapping Cosmo across the face.
and no one would play.
Come on, now touch me, baby. Can't you
Ah, here
see
comes the
that
lag.
Oh my god.
Oh, let's just stop. Let's just stop.
Let's just let Light read.
Yeah. Very nice.
I was waiting for it. Yes,
Are we all done?
No, I'm waiting for light. Start.
He That was just the worst.
That was
Play a
your
song.
intro music. You were to start reading.
I'm just
what
like,
was
I'm waiting
playing.
for it to end. Like, I don't
This
really.
is your cue.
No,
Your
you're
cue
supposed to
is
start
I'm so
while the music. You're
confused.
supposed to start while the music is playing.
Guys, we can't hear you.
Alright, fine. Okay, fine, I'll start. God damn it. Now shut up. Alright, this one is kind of well known.
No, actually, okay.
This is the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas. Sometime during the night of August 16th, 1952, the small town of Ashley, Kansas ceased to exist. At 3:28 a.m. on August 17th, 1952, a magnitude 7.9 earthquake was measured by the United States Geological Survey. The earthquake itself was felt throughout the state and most of the Midwest. The epicenter was determined to be directly under Ashley, Kansas. When state law enforcement arrived at what should have been the outskirts of the farming community, they found a smoldering, burning fissure in the earth, measuring 1,000 yards in length and approximately 500 yards in width. The depth of the fissure was never determined. After 12 days, the statewide and local search for the missing 679 residents of Ashley, Kansas was called off by the Kansas state government at 9:15 p.m. on the night of August 29th, 1952. All 679 residents were soon to be dead. At 2:27 a.m. on August 30th, 1952, a magnitude 7.5 earthquake was measured by the United States Geological Survey. The epicenter was situated under what used to be the location of Ashley, Kansas. When law enforcement investigated at 5:32 a.m., they reported that the fissure in the earth had closed. In the 8 days leading up to the disappearance of the town and its 679 residents, bizarre and unexplainable events were reported by dozens of residents in Ashley, Kansas, and law enforcement from the surrounding area. On the evening of August 8th, 1952, at 7:13 p.m., a resident by the name of Gabriel Jonathan reported a strange sight in the sky above Ashley. The town itself, having no official branch of law enforcement, called into the police station of the neighboring town of Hayes. Gabriel reported what appeared to be a small black opening in the sky. Within the next 15 minutes, the Hayes police station became overwhelmed with dozens of phone calls, all reporting the same phenomenon. The phenomenon was never reported by any neighboring communities. A decision was made to send a trooper to Ashley to investigate the matter the following morning. At 7:54 a.m. on the morning of August 9th, 1952, Hayes police officer Alan Mace radioed the Hayes police station. He reported that, despite following the one-way road leading into Ashley, he had become lost. According to his report, the road continued along its normal path, but somehow ended up back in Hayes. Officer Mace went on to add that the road never curved or bent in any direction. At 9:15 a.m., 7 of the town's 10 police cars were sent to investigate the situation, and all members of the team came to the same conclusion.
It's good stuff. I like Ashley, Kansas.
I think his internet just cut out again.
I don't think the story actually ended.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was about to say, what just happened?
Yeah, no, I know that's not the end of
I was just gonna say that's a lot longer.
I know that's not the end of the story. I'm supposed to be doing that, but I was supposed to do that with like Stories of the Dark a while ago, but we changed the story.
So is that a preview of things to come?
That is indeed a decent story. Yeah.
We've been having problems with internet tonight.
Oh, Light has.
Wow.
Well, I have too, because I mean, come on.
Well, when I heard something I looked up about that, just for future reference, best thing is try to use an Ethernet cable rather than Wi-Fi, because Wi-Fi can be so spotty.
Well, yeah, no kidding. But even so, like if you still have crappy internet, it's still going to be crappy when you.
Yep. Well,
That's the only problem.
Very true.
I'm in my room away from any Ethernet cables. that would
I was
potentially help.
working in the
anything.
lab late one night.
When
I
my
was looking-
Ethernet went out one night. Not
What?
Oh god.
What is even?
I still
what
can't.
is- what
I
is
still
my-
can't believe it. No. I still can't. I still can't believe I said I'm gonna do. I was going to read Slender Twilight.
Great
What
Google
the fuck did I just read? Pretty much everyone.
No means no, kid.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and do a voice like a voice if I can
Sweet
for it.
zombie Jesus.
Sweet zombie Jesus.
walking on the water, rain, I'm walking in the sky.
So
That's a real song. Violent Femmes. Look it up.
I don't.
How about I don't? Skip.
Yeah.
Does Light
You think what? Like
know that
still-
his internet?
I'm kind. I don't know if he knows. I gotta admit.
What if it
Because
turns out he
if
just
he-
reads the whole story?
And there he's back.
I was thinking about
In
that.
the wind
He's
blows
still
out.
reading to this day.
alright, oh, Chris,
Should be an
I have some news for you.
What?
Story said she canceled that.
I know that the Ashley Kansas thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I know. We're supposed to. I said that got canceled. We're doing.
Oh, okay.
We're doing
Just make
another collab.
Okay, that's cool. Stories is
Kind
a
of like
great
that.
person.
Yeah, kind of like the one we did for Thursday's channel.
We're gonna start doing random shoutouts now. Stories of the Dark, great narrator, awesome
Yes.
chick, check her out.
Arcane Razzle, the absolute best female narrator.
That's just
Yeah.
called kissing up, Doom. It's
Yeah.
just called.
Hey, I don't want to end up on the metaphorical couch, okay?
What you do is you don't bring it up at all.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Ralph Nader, multiple presidential candidate, fine voice of the American consumer.
What?
Well, you
So-
said we were doing shout-outs.
That
Maybe
one,
was-
we're going I don't know.
So like
that one to over.
There's like,
Yeah.
the
So
story
light.
more.
how did the story end? No kidding.
My internet kind of just said no.
Did you find all the babies?
And then
where did I cut off at?
Bullies.
I cut off really early on.
Ah, fuck. I read through like a good the first quarter of that.
Disappearance of Light Row, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what that turned into.
Are we gonna try and pick back up here?
Yeah, I guess I'll just.
Somewhere in the story you
Where
must have-
exactly do you guys remember me cutting off at?
I
'Cause
don't
from there.
remember. At
Just
all.
how about okay?
In
Hey,
the
wait. Did you already get to the part about the first phone call?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. How about you start? How about you start with the police phone call?
Yeah.
Because it's such
I'll
a
just
well-known
start. I'll
story.
just
Most of us
start
know
from
it.
the I'll just start from one of the paragraphs about yeah.
Yeah.
I think you cut off
Yeah,
like.
I'll start from like the what paragraph is it? It's like
I
the
was
fourth
going to-
paragraph. I'll start from
Right.
the fourth paragraph.
Before we
I was
start
gonna say-
again.
cut off like right after the black object in the sky thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that okay. The black. I'll just start at strange sight in the sky above Ashley, the town itself having no. Yeah,
Okay. Before
So I'll
we
just start at the
again-
fourth paragraph, which is basically right after that.
Alright.
Okay.
Before we start
All
again,
right, so
I need to give another shout out. Russell or Dark Ember, the guy that nobody knows. His words, not mine.
How many people are actually watching this thing?
It says 5.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
we
damn.
lost five
we
people.
lost viewers when that's.
Yeah.
We lost
And-
viewers
To be
because
fair,
of my disappearance.
It's funny.
To
if
be
anything,
fair,
you-
I was a viewer.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Technically, I've got it open too.
Technically, we're probably the only viewers if we're watching it ourselves.
I'm
Pretty
not
much.
watching it, so
I'm not watching it because mostly on principle. I'm here as a guest.
yes, you.
Alright. So let's get back into the story, shall we? We wasted some time here.
Yeah, that stupid cutout. I noticed it. Just okay. Yeah, my internet should be okay, but let's see what happens.
It's still kind of funny.
Hilarious.
Depending on your definition of fun.
Yeah.
No,
It's just, it's
If, you
not been a good night.
if your definition
it's
of
just
funny
like
is
someone
Dimension
said
Bucket,
Candlejack, only way worse.
And I think Chris just muted himself mid-sentence.
No shit, dude. I just said
someone
Candlejack.
obviously has never heard of Candlejack, or
Yeah,
else
clearly.
You people are fucking dumb.
Yeah, no, you obviously don't get the whole Candlejack thing because
What?
it's like a
Yeah,
reference.
Yeah, I know what you're
Candlejack.
talking about. I think it's funny.
Yeah, no, well, cause see, if you talk about it too much,
What was that joke about Wandering Scarecrow being way worse than Candlejack?
All right, I'm just gonna continue with the story, and if y'all want to talk, y'all want to talk.
No, whatever.
Alright. At 7:54 a.m. on the morning of August 9th, 1952, Hayes police officer Alan Mace radioed the Hayes
Did
Can we
it happen
just-
again?
Did it happen again?
Does not like this story.
Alright, so...
I was afraid for a second that I'd gone deaf.
all right. I
think-
vote we move on.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's like light, said Candlejack.
It's just cutting
Yeah,
out,
I
isn't
don't
it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
God damn it.
So, do you want to try to continue this or just move on?
We can just move on, I guess.
Alright, so I guess that goes to you, DB, with that short story.
All right, I've got.
hooray for quitting.
I mean, technically it's 2 short stories, but they're so short that
Yeah.
it's kind of just filler here. All right. So these are 2 stories. This is from my 1 hour of short scary stories video coming out fairly soon, and it is exactly 1 hour of short pasta. So there you
That's
go.
self-promotion, though.
Self-promotion, but these are a
Really
couple
gives a crap.
stories. These are a couple stories from that selection.
Buy our toys. Buy our toys. Buy our toys.
Doom actually has his own action figure. I'm ahead of the game, people.
Doom, quit
See,
playing.
Doom doesn't have to make his own
Yes,
action
he's also
figure.
the star of an indie comic book series.
Shut your face.
Here we go. So
Take a
I'm gonna do
drink.
2 stories. First one is the first one. All right, here we go. Coffins used to be built with holes in them, attached to 6 feet of copper tubing and a bell. The tubing would allow air for victims buried under the mistaken impression they were dead. Harold, the Oakdale gravedigger, upon hearing a bell, went to go see if it was children pretending to be spirits. Sometimes it was also the wind. This time it wasn't either. A voice from below begged and pleaded to be unburied. "You Sarah O'Bannon?" "Yes," the voice assured. "You were born on September 17th, 1827? "Yes." "The gravestone here says you died on February 19th? "No. I'm alive. It was a mistake. Dig me up, set me free. I'm sorry." Dialogue break. "Sorry about this, ma'am," Harold said, stepping on the bell to silence it and plugging up the copper tube with dirt. "But this is August. Whatever you is down there, you ain't alive no more. And you ain't coming up." That was the first story.
I've always
Second-
loved that story.
That was a good one.
Yep.
That's got to be the saddest possible version of the afterlife. I think I'd rather have
Oh
Oblivion.
yeah, have you seen those 2
Nice.
sentence horror stories? And it's just like, if I'd known it was going to be this long, I would have been cremated instead.
Yeah.
This next one is called
Well, no. Based on this story's logic, then you'd just be floating in the air as a cloud of ash.
Pretty much.
I just
Well,
like
but
the idea of him just like, whatever you is.
Yeah. Is my baby.
Alright. Here we go. Wristbands. When you are admitted to a hospital, they place on your wrist a white wristband with your name on it. But there are other, different colored wristbands which symbolize other things. The red wristbands are placed on dead people. There was one surgeon who worked on a night shift in a school hospital. He had just finished an operation down to the basement. He entered the elevator, and there was just one other person there. He casually chatted with a woman while the elevator descended, and when the elevator door opened, another woman was about to enter when the doctor slammed the close button and punched the button to the highest floor. Surprised, the woman reprimanded the doctor for being rude and asked why he did not let the other woman in. The doctor said, "That woman I just operated on. She died while I was doing the operation. Didn't you see the red wristband she was wearing?" The woman smiled, raised her arm, and said, "Something like this?"
Bravo.
So that was Wristbands and Sarah O'Bannon. Those were...
Nice.
I zoned out for most of that.
Oh, nice, nice. Way to show your support for your friend.
It's like one of those it's like the comedian who has to explain all the jokes after he tells them.
Well,
To be fair, it was short, so
as
he's
Hitchcock
on it,
once
yeah.
said.
It's funny because it was about books. That's why it was funny. It's a story about books. That's...
All right, Doom, DB. Do y'all have the link?
I
have the story all
script.
ready to go.
All right. So
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
yeah.
Nightlight. No. Plague.
The Night Flyer. No.
The Nightwire. Plague. I believe you are reading the text in that little box at the beginning. So, just FYI.
That's it. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, I think you read that, and then afterwards, I think it's Doom. There might be another line there for you. I'm not sure.
Wait, who is I and who is he?
Okay, so
I'm the bulletin, right?
Yeah, you are Zebico Bulletin.
Typical.
Zebico. Yes.
Really quick, Bucket. Do you prefer me use a regular accent, or should I use a Dateline Zebico?
Oh my God! I think you know the answer to that one. All right, let's begin. The Night Wire by H.F. Arnold.
New York, September 30, CP Flash. Ambassador Hollywell died here today. The end came suddenly as the ambassador was alone in his study.
There is something ungodly about these Nightwire jobs. You sit up here on the top floor of a skyscraper and listen in to the whispers of civilization. New York, London, Calcutta, Bombay, Singapore. They're your next-door neighbors after the streetlights go dim and the world has gone to sleep. Alone in the quiet hours between 2 and 4, the receiving operators doze over their sounders, and the news comes in. Fires and disasters and suicides, murders, crowds, catastrophes, sometimes an earthquake with a casualty list as long as your arm. The Nightwire man takes it down, almost in his sleep, picking it off on his typewriter with one finger. Once in a long time, you prick up your ears and listen. You've heard of someone you know in Singapore, Halifax, or Paris long ago. Maybe they've been promoted, but more probably they've been murdered or drowned. Perhaps they just decided to quit and took some bizarre way out. Made it interesting enough to get in the news. But that doesn't happen often. Most of the time you sit and doze and tap on your typewriter and wish you were home in bed. Sometimes, though, queer things happen. One did the other night, and I haven't gotten over it. I wish I could. You see, I handle the night manager's desk in a western seaport town. What the name is doesn't matter. There is, or rather was, only one night operator on the staff. A fellow named John Morgan, and a sober, hard-working sort. Typewriters at the... Oh, wait. He was one of the best operators I ever knew. What is known as a double man. That means he could handle two instruments at once and type stories on different typewriters at the same time. He was one of the 3 men I ever knew who could do it consistently, hour after hour. Never make a mistake. Generally, we used only one wire at night, but sometimes when it was late and the news was coming fast, the Chicago and Denver stations would open a second wire, and then Morgan would do his stuff. He was a wizard, a mechanical, automatic wizard which functioned marvelously, but was without imagination. On the night of the 16th, he complained of feeling tired. It was the first and last time I'd ever hear him complain, or ever heard him say a word about himself. And I had known him for 3 years. It was just 3 o'clock, and we were running only one wire. I was nodding over the reports at my desk and not paying much attention to him when he spoke. "Jim," he said, does it feel close in here to you?" "Why, no, John," I answered, "but I'll open the window if you like." "Never mind," he said. "I reckon I'm just a little tired." That was all that was said, and I went on working. Every 10 minutes or so I would walk over and take a pile of copy that had stacked up neatly beside the typewriter as the messages were printed out in triplicate. It must have been 20 minutes after he spoke that I noticed he had opened up the other wire and was using both typewriters. I thought it was a little unusual, as there was nothing very hot coming in. On my next trip, I picked up the copy from both machines and took it back to my desk to sort out the duplicates. The first wire was running out the usual sort of stuff, and I just did it over hurriedly. Then I turned to the second pile of copy. I remember it particularly because the story was from a town I had never heard of, Zebico. Here's the dispatch. I saved a duplicate from our files.
Zebico, September 16th, CP Bulletin. The heaviest mist in the history of the city settled over the town at 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. All traffic has stopped and the mist hangs like a pale over everything. Lights of ordinary intensity fail to pierce the fog, which is constantly growing heavier. Scientists here are unable to agree as to the cause, and the local weather bureau states that the likes has never occurred before in the history of the city. At 7 p.m. last night, the municipal authorities...
More. That was all there was, nothing out of the ordinary at the bureau headquarters, but, as I say, I noticed the story because of the name of the town. It must have been 15 minutes later that I went over for another batch of copy. Morgan was slumped down in his chair and had switched his green electric light shade so that the gleam missed his eyes and hid only the top of the 2 typewriters. Only the usual stuff was in the right-hand pile, but the left batch carried another story from Zebico. All press dispatches come in takes, meaning that parts of many different stories are strung along together, perhaps, but with a few paragraphs of each coming through at a time. The second story was marked Add Fog. Here is the copy.
At 7 p.m., the fog had increased noticeably. All lights were now invisible, and the town was shrouded in pitch darkness. As a peculiarity of the phenomenon, the fog is accompanied by a sickly odor, comparable to nothing experienced here.
Below that, in customary press fashion, was the hour 3:27 and the initials of the operator, J.M. There was only one other story in the pile from the second wire. Here it is.
Second ad, Zebico fog. Accounts as to the origins of the mist differ greatly. Amongst the most unusual is the sexton of the local church, who groped his way to headquarters in a hysterical condition and declared that the fog originated in the village churchyard. It was first visible as a soft gray blanket clinging to the earth above the graves, he stated. Then it began to rise higher and higher. A subterranean breeze seemed to blow in its billows, which split up and then joined together again. Fog phantoms, writhing in anguish, twisted the mist into queer forms and figures. And then, in the very thick midst of the mass, something moved. I turned and I ran from the accursed spot. Behind me I heard screams coming from the house bordering on the graveyard. Although the sexton's story is generally discredited, a party has left to investigate. Immediately after telling his story, the sexton collapsed and is now in a local hospital, unconscious.
Queer story, wasn't it? Not that we aren't used to it, for a lot of unusual stories have come over the wire. But for some reason or other, perhaps it was so quiet that night. The report of the fog made a great impression on me. It was almost with dread that I went over the waiting piles of copy. Morgan did not move, and the only sound in the room was the tap-tap of the sounders. It was ominous, nerve-wracking. There was another story from Zebico, the pile of copy. I seized on it anxiously.
New lead, Zebico Fog CP. The rescue party which went out at 11 p.m. to investigate a weird story of the origin of fog, which since late yesterday has shrouded in darkness, has failed to return. Another and larger party has been dispatched. Meanwhile, the fog, if possible, has grown heavier. It seeps through the cracks in the doors and fills the atmosphere with the depressing odor of decay. Its oppressive, terrifying bearing with a subtle impression of things long dead. Residents of the city have left their homes and gathered into the local church, where the priests are holding services of prayer. The scene is beyond description. Grown folk and children are alike terrified, and many are almost beside themselves with fear. Amid the whispers of vapor which partly veil the church auditorium, an old priest is praying for the welfare of his flock. They alternately wail and cross themselves. From the outskirts of the city may be heard cries of unknown voices. They echo through a fog in a queer, uncadenced minor keys. The sounds resembled nothing so much as wind whistling through a gigantic tunnel. But the night is calm, and there is no wind. The second rescue party.
More. I am a calm man, and never in a dozen years spent with the wires have I been known to become excited, but despite myself, I rose from my chair and walked to the window. Could I be mistaken? Or far down in the canyons of the city beneath me, did I see a faint trace of fog? It was all imagination. In a press room, the click of the sounders seemed to have raised the tempo of their tune. Morgan alone had not stirred from his chair. His head sunk between his shoulders. He tapped the dispatches out of the typewriters with one finger of each hand. He looked asleep, but no. Endlessly, efficiently, the two machines rattled off line after line, as relentlessly and effortlessly as death itself. There was something about the monstrous, the monotonous movement of the typewriter keys that fascinated me. I walked over and stood behind his chair, reading over his shoulder the type as it came into being, word by word. Ah, here was another.
Flash Zebico, CP. There will be no more bulletins from this office. The impossible has happened. No messages have come into this room for 20 minutes. We are cut off from the outside and even the streets below us. I will stay with the wire until the end. It is the end, indeed. Since 4 p.m. yesterday, the fog has hung over the city. Following reports from the sexton of the local church, 2 rescue parties were sent out to investigate conditions on the outskirts of the city. Neither party has ever returned, nor was any word received from them. It is quite certain now that they will never return. From my instrument I can gaze down to the city beneath me. From the position of this room, on the 13th floor, nearly the entire city can be seen. Now, I can only see a thick blanket of blackness where customarily are lights and life. I fear greatly that the wailing cries heard constantly from the outskirts of the city are the death cries of the inhabitants. That they are constantly increasing in volume and are approaching into the center of the city. A fog it hangs over everything, if possible. It is even heavier than before, but the conditions have changed. Instead of an opaque, impenetrable wall of odorous vapor, there now swirls and rides a shapeless mass in contortions of almost human agony. Now again the mass parts, and I catch a brief glimpse of the streets below. People are running to and fro, screaming in despair. A vast bedlam of sounds flies up to my window, and above all is the immense whistling of unseen and unfelt winds. The fog has again swept over the city, and whistling is coming closer and closer. It is now directly beneath me. God! An instant ago, the mist opened up, and I caught a glimpse of the streets below. The fog is not simply vapor. It lives. By the side of each moaning and weeping human is a companion figure, an aura of strange and vari-colored hues. How the shapes cling, each to a living thing. The men and women are down, flat on their faces. The fog figures caress them lovingly. They are kneeling beside them. They are... Oh, but I do not dare to tell it. The prone and writhing bodies have been stripped of their clothing. They're being consumed piecemeal. A merciful wail of hot, steaming vapor has swept over the whole scene. I can see no more. Beneath me, the wall of vapor is changing colors. It seems to be lighted by internal fires. No, it isn't. I've made a mistake. The colors are from above. Reflections from the sky. Look up! Look up! The whole sky is in flames. Colors as yet unseen by man or demon. The flames are moving. They have started to intermix. The colors are rearranging themselves. They're so brilliant that my eyes burn. They're a long way off. Now they begin to swirl, to circle in and out, twisting in intricate designs and patterns. The lights are racing each other with a kaleidoscope of unearthly brilliance. I've made a discovery. There is nothing harmful in the lights. They radiate force and friendliness, almost cheeriness. But by their very strength, they hurt. As I look, they are swinging closer and closer, a million miles at each jump, millions of miles with the speed of light. It is the light of quintessence of all light. Beneath it, the fog melts into a jeweled mist, radiant, rainbow-colored of 1,000 varied spectra. I can see the streets. Why, they are filling with people. The lights are coming closer. They are all around me. I am enveloped.
The message stopped abruptly. The wire to Zebeco was dead. Beneath my eyes, in the narrow circle of light from under the green lamp shade, the black printing no longer spun itself, letter by letter across the page. The room seemed filled with a solemn quiet, a silence, vaguely impressive, powerful. I looked down at Morgan. His hands had dropped nervelessly at his sides, while his body had hunched over peculiarly. I turned the lampshade back, throwing the light squarely in his face. His eyes were staring fixed. Filled with a sudden foreboding, I stepped beside him and called Chicago on the wire. After a second, the sounder clicked its answer. Why? But there was something wrong. Chicago was reporting that the wire, too, had not been used throughout that evening. "Morgan!" I shouted. "Morgan, wake up! It isn't true! Someone has been hoaxing us! Why—" In my eagerness, I grasped him by the shoulder. His body was quite cold. Morgan had been dead for hours. Could it be that his sensitized brain and automatic fingers had continued to record impressions even after the end? I shall never know, for I shall never again handle the night shift. Search in a world atlas discloses no town of Zebico. Whatever it was that killed John Morgan will forever remain a mystery. And that was The Nightwire, written in 1926.
This work is in the public domain in the United States because
Yep.
that was pretty interesting. It was
That was
long,
good,
but
yeah.
it kept me hooked the entire time.
It's a long one, but
Yeah.
it's a good one.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so. I think what really comes down to is that story is so different from what we're used to hearing.
Uh-huh.
It's something that's just, it's very Lovecraftian in a way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Lovecraftian. Either this story inspired Lovecraft, or it's more likely this person was inspired by Lovecraft.
20s.
Yeah.
Lovecraft was nearing the end of his career, so
Yeah, it was likely inspired by Lovecraft.
Probably, yeah.
The one thing that surprised me the most is I never thought I'd hear Doom with a medievalish accent.
For a second, he went totally Scottish for a minute.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
methinks the play is the thing in which I shall catch the conscience of the king.
But yes, it's
But
very
by the way,
good
Doom,
story.
did you end up hearing The Spider yet? The new podcast?
Oh, I have not actually downloaded the newest podcast. Is it on the? Have you released the Eldritch or not yet?
It's not on Eldritch. It's Midnight Cassette.
The spider.
The Spider. Has that actually, just a question? Has anybody in here actually heard?
Spider as in the old pulp hero?
Or the one that you wrote.
No. It's the Spider is in the It's by Heinz Hans Ewers.
Oh sure, yeah. I heard you read that on that episode. It was good.
Okay, yeah. I just want to see because
I
that
listened
story.
to it.
I have to look for it.
Well, see, the thing about that story, I mean, well, it's not particularly Lovecraftian. It's still kind of, it's that you get that same sort of feeling when you read that, just that feeling of just like what the hell is going on.
Like dimensional horror sort of thing.
All right.
Indeed.
So, for a finale, should we read off the Creepypasta Survival Guide, all of us?
I have a short thing I can read.
All right, we'll do a short one or two, and then we'll do that.
I was going to say so much for doing the Slender Twilight thing.
We're not doing that.
No,
I
don't blame
I
you.
think we're kind of burned out after all the long stories.
We should read it in the round like the vagina monologues.
Oh
Oh
god.
gosh.
Vagina.
Take a drink.
It's our creepypasta version of the vagina monologues.
All right, so you're gonna read one, Cosmo.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, really quick. Who else has got stories?
Not anything short, really.
Well, I've got a couple minutes. Like,
Are we talking micropasta here, Nick?
Well, it's a short poem.
Oh, okay.
No.
well, what is the definition of short? Because apparently that story we just read was a horror short story.
I actually do have a very short
I can read it.
one.
I can read it in like 2-3 minutes.
All right,
Oh, okay.
go for it.
Okay, so I'm not going to tell you the title of this until I've read it. I want to see who here recognizes it, where it's from.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Let me just mute here. What am I doing? I don't want to mute. Sorry. All right, here we go. Late at night, the world sleeps, and I am here alone. And here I come some nights to confront my fears. They're here, my fears. They're always with me. Lurking, scurrying, hiding, and waiting. They come, and they go. But though they are gone, they are never far. And here alone at night, I can confront them. There they are, confronted fears. Fears of hunger, Fears of pain, fears of missing the last train, fear of dentists always drilling, fear that no one will be willing to see me as I know I really am. Once they are counted and compelled, they can quickly be dispelled, like figments of my own imagination. But always, there are other fears. Fears of snakes, fears of cats, fears of maitre d's and rats, an irrational black terror that someday I may get fat. Fear of elevators falling and the taxman someday calling and the accidental walling of myself up inside a clammy, dank, old, dingy cellar where the spiders weave around my tummy and the worms and bugs and crawly things squirm and squiggle at my person. Once they are counted and compelled, they can quickly be dispelled. But then, there are other fears. Fears of bullets, there's a dread. Fear of baldness on the head. Fear of waking up one morning to discover that you are dead. Once they are counted and compelled, they can quickly be dispelled, like figments of my own imagination. Then, there is the last fear, just about the time when I'm past fear. The one that really is final. It will come yours and mine'll, in the darkness of the night. It will come without a fight. It will count me and compel me. It will casually dispel me. For I am just a figment of its own imagination.
Yeah.
I'm unaware of this.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I have not heard of it before either.
I think I've got one, like, this one is actually...
It sounds
really
familiar.
that I can do.
Well, what's the name of it, Nick?
It's
Yeah.
called Zero's Fears. It was
Zero
written by Jerry Jewell for the 1973 episode of The Muppet Show, co-starring Zero Mostel.
Really now? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
a writer for The
So-
Muppet Show, man. Sound a lot like Poe. It's pretty interesting.
So, just before we do the Creepypasta stuff, I've got one. This one is actually short poem.
Oh,
That's what I was
sorry.
gonna say.
Sorry about that.
We'll do one more and then we'll all
That
do
really
that.
was
I
enough,
sent you all a link.
Okay, this one's this one I don't even have to scroll down for. It's maybe like it's only a couple lines. Jack and Jill by Stories of the Dark. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jill fell down the well and drowned, and Jack, too, fell soon after. A pity fell upon the two. A fairy had them changed. Imaginary friends to kids with parents loved and estranged. Jack and Jill slept in a box till one day they came out. To Jill a girl, to Jack a boy, but so different, no doubt. For Jill the girl was sweet and kind, she followed her example. For Jack the boy was cruel and twisted, his imagination grew ample. Jack put Jill under the hill, and Isaac soon to follow. The boy so cruel a lesson learned, for now his eyes were hollowed. That's it.
That's a great pasta to do.
Is this supposed to be
That
about families?
Yeah, no, it was Jack and Jill. It was a twisted fairy tale sort of thing.
So I
written by-
know there was a
written by Stories of the Dark.
Yeah.
She wrote another one that I did recently too. It was pretty good.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I didn't read the.
Because I read there was a longer Jack and Jill poem that was like sick and twisted, but it was like ridiculously long.
This one.
It's probably one of those kind of like doing the Cinderella thing. Oh, and Story says she was like, "What really?" And she went, "Gah, my poem." She put a heart.
Yep.
All right, so
I knew she was watching that. Was one of the main reasons I did that.
how are we gonna do this? I'm gonna start it off, and we just go to the next person.
How many things are there in the survival guide?
There are
I think there's like several hundred.
146.
Yeah.
146.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
dude,
but
considering-
it's something that goes fast. If you really
Yeah,
think
it
about
goes
it.
really,
Oh,
really
yeah.
fast.
It took
You
Mr.
guys want me
Creepypasta
to start off, or
half
who
an
wants
hour
to start
do
off?
that.
I don't
Well,
know.
we
Let's
gotta
just
figure. Okay, how are we gonna do like 2 each, or like how's that gonna work?
We could do that. Do 2 each.
2 each. Okay.
I'll start us off. Read all the
So,
intro things, and
then who goes
Uh,
next?
We'll do it in the order. We'll do it in the order we did the pastas. So it'd be
Me.
Plague, and then Chris, and then Cosmo, and then Doom, and then me. So.
But I didn't do jack shit.
Whatever. So
Okay.
we're going to do
Okay.
the intro thing.
so let's
I'll do
do
it.
this.
Or no, Plague should do it, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
We've all been there. You've just gone to a certain place at a certain time on a certain date, done a special thing, and the thing you suspected would happen has just freaking happened. Not to mention the fact that you've just seen whatever the heck it is that lives in your mirror, been told in detail how you were going to die, and the highly demonic and invincible thing you've summoned is heading towards you. Also, your family are all dead, your friends are all missing, and you're being framed by someone with access to your bedroom. Well, what do you do now, sweet protagonist? Well, you've come to the right place to find out. These are the simple rules one must follow in order to, firstly, not become the victim of creepypasta, and furthermore, to come out kicking if the worst does happen. With the help of this guide, you too can merely be a catatonic, traumatized wreck, as opposed to the guy who is currently being worn as a coat by some dude who roams a lot. Just keep these few simple rules in mind.
Mirrors
Well,
and dark-
I
mirrors
thought you were
and-
doing the first 2, Plague.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's what I thought.
Oh, mirrors and darkness don't mix. Actually, mirrors are a general no in the creepypasta world. There is nothing more sinister.
There is zero chance of survival if you look at the thing that no one else can see, or answer its question incorrectly. 4. If you are alone at night in a creepy mental institution, take some time to consider what the fuck you're doing there, and then, if it is appropriate to do so, leave.
5. Avoid going to places where everyone else who went there never came back or died inexplicably. 6. If someone stops your vehicle at night and asks to come with you, it would probably be in your best interest to politely decline.
7. Killing is the last method of survival. Use it sparingly, but without fear. Who was phone? It's always a good thing to ponder. Also, who the hell answers a phone while having sex with a dead person's sexy daughter? A creepy rapist, that's who.
9. Get a simple .38 revolver. Load it with 2 silver bullets. If you really feel that there's no chance to come out alive in a situation, take one shot at whatever it is that's threatening you. If this doesn't work, you still have the last shot to become the tragic hero. 10. Area 51 is simply too well guarded to let you get in, or let any alien out.
11. When going to a hotel, try to steer clear of unauthorized areas. If you couldn't resist but you saw a red thing, take some time to consider the price range and hotel standard on your next visit. Have you ever stayed at a haunted Hilton? 12. When booking your hotel stay, TripAdvisor can be an invaluable tool in deeming whether your choice is the scene of a multiple murder, full of dead people, or built at the mouth of hell. Local newspapers can also be helpful.
13. Invoking demons, speaking weird languages, and performing rituals of any kind is considered dangerous. Refrain from doing that, especially around abandoned warehouses, churches, psychiatric institutions, the woods, and your house in front of a mirror at night. 14. When going to a new area, environmental understanding is key to survival. Ask around for cursed places, legends, dangers, and other details. Listen to the local people's advice, and don't be afraid to ask if you're unsure of which attacks/disappearances are paranormal and which aren't.
15. Always have a Bible next to your bed. Provides average reading material, proof of beliefs, and a really heavy and effective object to throw at your enemies. 16. Don't count on holy water. Get a sturdy vial of sulfuric acid and let a priest consecrate it.
17. Japanese priests cleanse rooms by waving katana swords around. The ritual is 100% effective on corporal forms. 18. If you find 666 messages on your phone, mailbox, email, etc., consider changing the said service provider. Also, don't bother listening to / reading the messages. It's spam. Extra dimensional possibly, but spam nonetheless.
19. Old pharmaceutical companies can't help you unless you specifically need blood of the innocent, snake oil, and radioactive syrup, which is never. 20. If you need to sign it in blood, you do not need to sign it. All mainstream government bodies will accept contracts signed in ink. Bear this in mind if offered deals that seem too good to be true.
Number 21. Lighthouses are dangerous. Avoid them at all costs. If you work in a lighthouse, consider a career in insurance sales or veterinary care. Have you ever read Three Skeleton Key?
Certainly Morgan Freeman.
Number 22. There is simply no reason to listen to music that causes suicidal tendencies.
23. Or to watch films that have had strange/disastrous consequences. 24. If you like to plan ahead and have some money, buy your auntie and uncle a house in Bel Air. Nothing can harm you there, no matter how scared your mother is.
Oh, well, it seems like we got someone who wants to be alive now.
Oh, God.
I do.
25. Secret, secluded, untouched places in old buildings are left untouched for a reason.
Oh my.
Pioneers never say die. But in fact, they do have an unusually high mortality rate. Before you start swimming in the ice-cold waters of a murky lake at the center of a dark forest at midnight, ask yourself, do you really want to travel to an ancient and terrifying city? If the answer is no, then stay at home instead and watch whatever quality programming is available on Cinemax. Which means boobs.
On your 33rd birthday, try celebrating in a well-lit house with a company of others in red. Refrain from using the one true name for anything. There's probably some reason people gave it a nick. That's right, Cosmofish. Just to scare you silly.
Oh my God.
You will address me as Asmodel.
29. Watching TV static for too long, for periods of long time, may be hazardous to your health. Satellite TV or Freeview to combat the problem. Netflix and internet streaming are also effective. Anywhere else you can find Sesame Street will actually be very good. Kitty cat. Those fluffy little hairballs seem to be foreseeing unnatural phenomenon better than us. And if desperate, simply throw it at whatever's about to get you.
Oh, you special guest Vincent Price!
Well, number 31. Safety in numbers.
No.
No, okay.
Take a drink. Okay.
You're not doing it quite correctly.
No, none of you are doing it correctly. Thank
Okay.
Take out the bad.
Let's continue this. If you're getting a bit too freaked out, grab a few friends, any and all firearms, and avoid the area in question. Number 32. Cemeteries are bad places, especially in foggy conditions and on Halloween.
33.
Hey.
Try not to close your eyes.
Nick.
You bastard.
What?
Interrupting Nick.
Wrong order, you idiot.
I can't tell Plague and Chris's voices apart very well.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You've known them for how long? How good a friend are you right
I'll
now?
look at the.
Whatever. Oh.
Sorry
33.
about that.
Best reading ever.
33. Try not to close your eyes. Ever. If you must do so only briefly. If something has moved from its original location in the time it has taken you to blink, it is recommended that you do not blink again until you have dealt with said object. Fire is presumably the best method. 34. If you ever find an unmarked tape which contains the file extension .avi, even if it's on of your favorite kids show, do not, under any circumstances, watch the tape. Now, if the extension is .nts, that is a different matter altogether.
35. If you hear chanting, run until you are out of your shot. Number 36. If you're too old to play with dolls, you do not need to be anywhere near one of those creepy little fuckers.
I want to emphasize that
Number
part.
37. Legends can offer valuable insight where not to go camping with friends.
It's like the impression.
That's what's gonna happen when I meet Christopher Walken in real life. It's gonna be like, "Hello."
Oh God.
All on the floor. Number.
This thing went to chaos.
I can't. I fucking can't. Oh my God.
Where did we stop?
Good. Okay.
Number 39. If you are certain
My
that running will not
goodness.
save you, it is always best to try.
What the hell?
I think we skipped 2.
No, oh wait, yeah, wait, I think we might have.
38, 39. Or no, 37, 38.
Oh.
37. Legends can offer valuable insight to whether not to go camping with friends. 38. When babysitting, ascertain the family's taste and preferences to avoid being killed by poorly selected statues.
Someone go for me. I'm having troubles with the internet right now.
Alright.
If you go to buy a used video game, whether it's at a game shop or a garage sale, never, ever buy one with a weird-looking cartridge. This includes strange colors and ripped-off labels with titles written in marker. The latter tends to happen more often than not. For the daring, don't just buy said game to become famous. Your chance of becoming an internet celebrity because of it can only work if you know how to program. You should also be highly suspicious of games priced too cheaply and bootlegs. 41. If you decide to buy the used game anyway, rip that son of a bitch out of your console the moment it starts acting funny and take a hammer to it.
42. If you ever see a strangely new-looking doorway with a strange face on it, on a building you swore you didn't see at first, and the building happens to be an old chateau, don't fucking open it, you moron. 43. It's probably best to refrain from looking up on Google the phrase, Huskies with grins. You'll just end up having to spread the word. Oh, son of a bitch. Oh, yeah.
Never allow someone to take a picture of you with an outdated camera. If it's too late, your only bet is to gamble with death, or just trap him in a photo. That works too. 45. Don't play with dolls if they come with a needle or defect. Especially a defect.
Oh, nobody likes poor disabled dollies.
Burn all Ouija boards, but be sure to have one of them car fresheners handy. The real reason why spirits get pissed off is because that foul aroma produced when they burn, you know? 47.
Them dang
Never
old
confront
goddamn
animated
bad news.
monsters physically. Subdue them with spells, or they'll come back with minions, or a real physical body. Or do what I do, and just scream wog at them really loud.
You can also sell pizza to pigs.
And watch out for stingrays, crikey.
That is not an Australian accent, but thank you for playing.
It was a fair attempt, if anything.
Alright, Chris. I think it's your turn.
Oh, it is? Where are we? I zoned out.
Top of the turn again.
Where?
49?
Okay.
Yes, we're at 49. 48.
48, yeah.
48. If you find yourself unable to escape, dancing may ward off the entity. Doing the hokey pokey is known to ward off curious monsters, but you might have to do the moonwalk to deal with the zombies. Damn. 49. If you're checking your computer for viruses and go too deep into System 32, refrain from clicking on any .avi files. If you do not heed this warning, creepy videos on YouTube.
50. If you see old tapes containing the words happy or appy, pretend you never saw them. Just go on with your life. It'll just end up invoking some whacked-out, coked-up director of an old children's show, and you'll wind up having to pull some thanks for the ride shit to kill him. I should have read that as a Cockney accent. Appy or appy?
Appy.
Happy or happy.
Appy.
Happy or happy.
Appy or appy? 51.
Also, it's someone mentioned cocaine.
Try saying these words without sounding Australian in the sequence.
Good
Huh?
eye, mate. Damn.
Good day, mate.
Good eye, mate.
Good day, mate.
Good day, mate.
That's like something off of 50. That's like how a 50s sitcom husband greets his wife. Good day, mate.
Okay, so back to what we were doing.
51. If you buy a used camcorder and find the previous owner left one of their tapes inside, refrain from watching that tape no matter how tempting it may be. It's not porn. It's going to kill you.
Be careful when buying an old second-hand TV. If you see a guy with both an incredibly large smile and black and white eyes, extricate yourself from the premise post-haste, because it's probably doom.
Or just the Spy vs. Spy guy.
What?
A spy versus spy.
Oh god.
So if you hear a hissing sound in your backpack, you know exactly what it is.
So what number are we on?
Or don't go to a friend's house to make cupcakes if they have random bursts of insanity, unless, of course, you're with William Shatner or Keanu Reeves having some Keanu sausage.
Oh my god.
55. Phone companies with low coverage.
56, like.
56. .exe files with strange names are not safe. Don't open them. 57. For the love of Neptune, turn off your frickin' faucet when you're done with it.
58. You're told not to look behind you. It's better to do so, unless you're against a wall. In which case you're fucked. 59.
Oh my.
Everyone take a drink. 59. Also, do not listen to anyone who tells you to go to sleep. It's better to run away.
Number 60. If you see a tall man with tentacles, run. Number 61. Do not enter strange websites because you'll find the normal porn for the normal people and the offers from Nigeria that make me so angry.
That was potentially
Don't enter strange places walking in.
Sorry, I just gotta go where I gotta go.
No, that bathroom might be haunted.
Well, remember, Christopher Walken's always carrying his weapon of choice.
You see, kids, this dish, it's not gonna make a fat boy slim.
Oh my god.
Okay.
New fat.
Not even strange videos.
64. If a woman who covers her mouth asks you if she is beautiful, tell her that she is average because she doesn't pump up her muscles. It will prevent her from slicing your mouth. 65. No good can ever come from owning a shiny Pokemon. Go out and do real workout like a real man.
Okay.
That chain facing shit is for pussies.
Okay, I'm gonna say something real quick. We need to speed this up a little bit. I gotta go in like 5 minutes.
Okay, so we're not even.
Alright, let
Okay.
Doom do the work. If you're an intern in a cartoon studio and you happen to be reviewing a new episode, make sure the episode is safe for work before viewing that shit. 67, don't be so excited when being asked to look behind you. But don't take forever. No reason to keep sudden death waiting. 68, weird shit in Europe won't hurt you in the United States. Leave that to creeps, Scarecrow, and the creepy dark. And now by no Scarecrow, we mean Wandering Scarecrow.
And Dimension Bucket Podcast.
69, weird shit in the United States won't hurt you in Europe. Damn. 70, should you break Rule 54, there is always a chance of rescue. 71, if your brother is tired of noise, or if your close friend has a brother like that, refrain from going into his basement unless you want to be tortured, raped, and killed, especially raped. Isn't that right, MCP?
72, if you buy paper carton, save data on, delete all, save 73 if you get Dragon Song on a disc, and the only file on the disc is a WASD file called Sonic. Don't play it, destroy it, or a demonic looking thing that has a Sonic plushie might kill you. If you choose not to, it will scar you for life. 74 if you see what happens for your 12-year-old kid with black shorts, gray body, gray bloody shirt, red shades, dark gray skin, and a maniac grin. Do not under any circumstances piss him off unless you wear fire or brave. 75 paranormal shit. 76 neighbors may have a darker side if they do things that seem off for them act normal. 77, in addition to Rule 77, if you hear foreign voices from your body, that means you've been body jacked. 78, if you're an adult and notice that you are being stalked by a guy with a black suit, long arms, and no face, reach for the nearest child and throw him or her at it and run like hell. 79, if you're a child in the same situation, run like hell before an adult. Use you to satisfy aforementioned beings craving hunger. If you do not manage to escape before the adult's legs, you try bargaining with the Slender Man. The adult has more delicious flesh. 80, the Slender Man said monster depicted in the last two tips. If you remember Slender Man only wants a hug, he won't go after you. But if Slender Man does stalk you, run mad.
Stop. 81, if all else fails, give Slenderman $20. He should leave you alone. Okay, continue.
82, if you see someone crawling around, run like lady, something you don't want more information. 83, if your police officer straight over the FBI agent or your president authority and you're really...
Stop.
146. If you find yourself as part of any kind of scientific experiment or live stream, is probably your mother.
That is a wonderful end.
There we go. That's the end for a live stream.
Follow some simple rules and a little or massive harm may befall you. Either way, the important thing is to make sure your fate is told. Copied and pasted repeatedly, and repeatedly, and repeatedly, forever yours, management.
Repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly.
Alright, so we're going to have to end it off here. This has been Plaguebringer with Dimension Bucket.
And everyone else. Goodbye.
You asshole.
You gotta exit everybody. Dimension Bucket.
I am Adolf Hitler, broadcasting to you from Argentina.
This is Hitler broadcasting from Auschwitz.
You know what? Screw it. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
You guys are idiots.
Have a good time.